Thing like, please mute yourself. Please, Garg sir, continue.
Okay. See, the current below poverty line is 1060 rupees per month in rural areas and 1286 Indian rupees per month in urban areas, which means persons earning less than 1060 per month, they are taken as BPL families. And this 90% of these people don't have a house. As against that, in urban areas, there is a meager increase that is 1,286 rupees, and these people also fall in BPL category. Now, in urban housing shortage, they also, collected data to ascertain the conditions of the house, whether they are congested, whether they are obsolete, whether they are kacha or homeless. If we see that in this slide, 80% people in the urban areas, they are living in congested houses requiring new houses. Approximately 12% people are living in obsolete houses. 5% household living in non-serviceable kacha houses, and 3% they are homeless. They are homeless. Now, homeless means who do not live in buildings or census houses but live in the open on roadside, pavements, in hume pipes, under flyovers, staircases, open places of worship, mandaps, railway platform. So we have in urban areas 3% of the population living in this condition. Definitely, all of these people need housing. Now, this group also estimated, housing shortage by states. So if we see that the maximum shortage is in Uttar Pradesh, this slide will, indicate various states and their shortages. As against that, we see in Goa only 0.06 million, so very less. Lakshadweep, Daman and Dweep, Chandigarh, they are places where not much housing shortage is there, but compared to that, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, uh, Bihar, they are the state which is showing highest percentage of housing shortage in the country. Now, what is the reason for this housing shortage? We all can, imagine the main reason is the uncontrolled growth in population, disintegration of joint Hindu family system, high level of household formation due to economic independence. People are becoming, economically independent and they demand houses. Low level of income of the families. Because of low level of income, they are not able to construct their houses. The availability of funds for housing is inadequate. There is virtually no institutional framework for housing finance so far as if we talk of the affordable segment or LIG and EWS category people. There is a shortage of developed land for housing. If land is developed, the price becomes very high. There is a high price of development land. Continuous migration of population from rural to urban area in search of employment, and various kinds of legal impediments. They are also, come in the way of or add to the housing shortage or have added over a period of time to the housing shortage in the country. Such a basic right. Housing is a basic right. Universal Declaration of Human Rights it declares that everyone has the right to a standard of living, adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing. So housing is a basic human right as per the declaration of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Housing is one of the area where it is a basic human right, along with other like medical care, social services, right to security. in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, etc., etc. So we we consider housing as a very important, for the human being. It's a basic human need. And improvement, if there is a improvement in the housing conditions, that will lead to increased productivity, health, and other measures of well-being. If a person is living in a house, he feel very secure. His health will be better, and that will give him better productivity. He can contribute more towards his production. Housing is also important because it is employment intensive. The construction of housing is very employment intensive and generate employment during its construction and afterward for its maintenance. Now, housing is the second largest employment generator after agriculture. In our country, agriculture is the first employment generator and housing falls the second. Now, by 2022, but for COVID, it was expected to employ around 67 million workforce. Annually, it will generate 3 million jobs annually. It is the fourth largest employment generating sector with 99.4% jobs are informal. That is more important that our people, our poor LIG, AWS people, they also get job in this sector. It also contributes to GDP. They are interlinked. If housing is increased, it also links to GDP. It is also called engine of domestic growth because housing affects around 269 industries directly or indirectly. Now we have seen the demand is increasing because of growth of population, rapid pace of industrialization, and urbanization, economic growth. Now, what demand driver? What are the drivers which create more demand for housing? Let us see in the context of our country: growth of population, urbanization, increase in proportion of working population, economic growth, nuclear families, easier financing options. Now, if these are available, is because of these factors, there is a demand, they contribute to the demand for more housing in the country. We will take one by one. Again, from the census of 2011, obviously because 2021 census we are still awaiting. Now, if we see from total population of around 23 crore in 1901, in 2011, our country has a population of 121 crores. So nearly, fivefold increase in the population. Out of which rural population is 83 crore, which was only 21 crore. That means there is an increase of fourfold in the rural population over a period of time between 1901 to 2011. So we have a 89% population in 1901 living in rural areas, as against that 68% or 69% population is now living in rural areas, which means that there is a movement of rural population towards urban. That is why if we see in 1901, the urban population was only 25%, which has now increased to 10%. Actually, it was 10%, and which has now increased to around 31%. So constantly, there is an increase in urban population and reduction in our rural population. It is mainly, because of the movement of people to the cities to get better education facilities, more and more employment opportunities, good connectivity, and everyone think that there is a higher standard of living in terms of supply of water, electricity, medical facilities, etc. It is expected that by 2030, our cities will be housing around 50% of the population. Now, this movement of population from rural to urban is causing, a deep stress on the basic infrastructure or amenities available in the urban areas on, for example, on water, power, open spaces. So that is why our cities are getting crowded day by day. Another factor which create more demand for housing is the total size of population and how much is the total working population in that. Here also, if we get census data from 1981 onward to 2011, what we find is that in 81 out of 68 crore population, 24 crore were the workers. In 2001, out of 102 crore population, 40 crores were the working population. And in 2011, out of 121 crore population, 48 crore is the working population. If a person is in the working class, he demands housing. He also wants to live, separately, individually, independently. So as the number of workers increase, so this also is an indicator of a driver which creates more demand for housing. Similarly, if the total product of the country increases, that also is an indicator that there will be more demand for housing because the overall resources in the country are increasing. Here we have a data from RBI publication from 2013 onwards. It is in crores itself. So in 2013-14, our GDP was around 1.12 crores. As against that, in 1920, the GDP increased to 2.2 crore and 3,39,000 and odd. So which means that our GDP also is constantly increasing, creating further demand for housing. Easy financing. Now, if finance is available, people tend to borrow and construct houses. Now, there also, if we get the information we collected is from 2015-16 onward. Now, two main players in the housing finance sector are scheduled banks and housing finance companies. Now, we have seen, if you see that in 2015-16, scheduled banks have disbursed around 7.5 lakh crore rupees, and the housing finance company disbursed around 4.27. That is outstanding. This was the outstanding figure of the housing finance, which by 2021 increased to around 14.5 lakh crore by scheduled banks and 7.18 crore by the housing finance company. So that means that they are constantly disbursing housing loan, which means that housing finance is available to the people for constructing their houses. This is also if housing loans are available at cheaper rate in the system, people tend to demand housing and construct their houses. So this is the housing scenario, the demand driver for housing, and why this shortage is there. We have discussed this. Now, what happened if this was the position? What is the policies government of India has adopted? The first thing we will notice is about the constitution and housing, the housing policies and programs in India, and central and state initiatives. Now, in the Indian constitution, per se, housing is not either the responsibility of the center or the state or both. Because it is neither in the union list, nor in the state list, nor in the concurrent list. But if we search all the entries in the Constitution of India, we find land and colonization are state subjects. Whereas welfare of labor find in the concurrent list, which means it is the responsibility of both central and the state government. Now, ninth plan document, which is, the plan document is prepared by the central government. They declared housing is a state subject. Now, through 74th constitutional amendment, efforts were made to push the decentralize and empower urban local bodies. And in that empowerment process, the housing was also included. So presently the situation is that housing scheme for the poor sections, they are designed by the center, but center demands that the state and local bodies should support and give matching funds, and it should be implemented by urban local bodies. So Indian constitution is not very clear, but over a period of time now center and state both are involved in providing housing to the population. Now various housing policies and program in India. Briefly, if we look at before 1988 and after 1988, 1988 is the divider year. Prior to that, the least importance was given to housing. From 1988 onwards, the attention was towards the housing policy, and various programs, policies, initiatives were undertaken. Now, the first policy is, if we look at the slide, the national housing policy was first in 1988, then second policy in 1998, that JNNURM mission was launched in 2005, then urban housing and habitat policy again in 2007, issue, that is interest subsidy scheme for housing the urban poor in 2008, Rajiv Rin Yojana was made in 2013, Rajiv Awas Yojana in 2009, Affordable Housing in Partnership in 2013, and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana that was started in 2015, which is both urban and rural. And this last plan, in that attempt was made, we should provide houses to all the citizens in the country. So the program which is going on today is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, under which it is proposed to provide housing to all the whole of the citizenry of the country. Now, why it was neglected between 47 to 88? Because it was given low priority, not considered a productive investment. Because if we feel that housing, if you put money in housing, it is not a productive investment. Therefore, was given least priority. Of course, certain things were done which were later helpful. That is, town and country planning organizations were formed, housing boards were established, refugee populations were adjusted in the cities, building material industries were established. But with the neglect, the position of housing in the country deteriorated because of high population growth, low growth of new housing stock, and lack of upgradation of the old housing stock. The inadequacy of the norms and standard for low-income housing also, the standard which were fixed at that time, they were recognized that they are not good, they are not able to come up with good housing for the population. The need for urban management institution and national housing was recognized. Now, first policy document was 1988, where it was a comprehensive national housing policy, where it was recognized that housing is not only a commodity but also a productive investment. It was also recognized in this policy that promotion of housing means promotion of economic activities. Therefore, various objectives were laid down in this policy. Strategies to achieve these objectives were also mentioned. But with the change of government in 1990, a new policy was formulated in 1992 and which was adopted by Parliament in 1994. Now, 1994 policy Again, they emphasize that, we should create a surplus stock in the country. Land and conferring homestead rights to that should be increased. Minimum displacement of rural household by developmental projects. Adequate rehabilitation measures in case of person affected by natural calamities. Various again objectives were laid down in this policy. In 1998, again a policy was with a housing for all. Again, number of objectives of this policy were taken because this is all historical. I do not want to go more in detail. The first time in this, the role of various players, what the central government will do, what state government will do, what housing finance companies will do, what public agencies will do, what will be the role to be played by corporate, private, and cooperative sectors, what role research and technology transfer organization will play. All was laid down in detail in the 1998 policy. So this policy is considered to be a landmark initiative and achievement of 1998 policy. If I summarize, this policy was finalized in consultation with the states. Earlier policies were center was only making the policy. It involved multi-stakeholders. Urban Land Ceiling Act was repealed. Rent Control Act, there was a proposal that Rent Control Act need to be amended. Foreclosure laws put in place. Subsequently, the NHB Act was amended, SARFAESI was enacted, Debt Recovery Act was enacted. So the attempt was that foreclosure laws should be put in place. That was the indication available from this policy. Fiscal concessions to be given to individual in repayment of loan and interest payments. Projects should be extended income tax benefits so that more and more people come and construct housing projects. For employee housing, depreciation on building should be increased so that employers are encouraged to invest in housing. And FDI was permitted to invest in the real estate sector. Now, this policy was replaced by National Urban Housing and Habitat Policy in 2007. So far as this policy is concerned, this policy divided rural and urban separately because earlier policies were both for same rural and urban areas. But in 2007, the urban problems were different, rural problems were different, and therefore both were divided. And this was also for, the important point of this policy was that fiscal concession to continue. State to prepare state-wise housing plans with the help of central government. Encouraging integrated township and special economic zones. Private sector to be permitted to land assembly with a view to prepare within the purview of master plans. So private sector was allowed to do land assembly and construct houses. Policy gives primacy to provision of shelter near to present locations. Wherever these people are staying, their workplace, they should be sheltered. The shelter should be provided near to that place, workplace only. Microfinance institution to be promoted at state level to expedite flow of finance to urban poor. Municipal laws to be prepared by the central government. And role of housing and provision of basic services to the urban poor integrated into the objective of JNNURM. Now then, various initiatives like JNNURM to construct 1.5 million houses. Issue scheme where interest subsidy was given was launched. Number of steps were taken. These are the various schemes which were announced under the 2007 policies. Now, in 2022, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was launched. It declared that they will construct 50 million houses for the poor by 2022, 30 million in rural areas and 20 million in urban areas. You must all be hearing, so many houses have been constructed, so many houses have been sanctioned, so many houses have been delivered. So in a mission mode, this work is going on of constructing a number of houses for the poor. Now, this mission is up to 2022. That is when the country will achieve 75th year, when it will be in the 75th year of its independence. The present policy of the government or present mission of the government is that each one of us should live in our own house. सबका घर सबका अपना घर हो, इस type का slogan, these people are giving. Now, under this policy, there are 4 components where developing slum itself, using the slum land, the subsidy should be provided there. Then, through loans, credit subsidy should be provided. Affordable housing in partnership should be encouraged. And if the beneficiary themselves are constructing the house, the subsidy should be provided there also. Recently, to encourage rental housing, this is a recent initiative by the Ministry of Urban and Housing Affairs, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, where affordable rental housing complexes. This is also under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, where basically the idea is that the migrant labor, the low-income people, which move from rural areas to city, they should be housed in this area from where the building complexes. These are funded by the government but lying unused. In all the states, this type of houses have been constructed by public agencies and they are lying unused. Now the government planned that for these migrant laborers or urban poor, so that at less rent, house should be provided to them. Either it can be a single bedroom or a dormitory of 4-6 beds where with all the facilities, people can live in hygienic conditions. So this scheme, ARHC, is a recently launched scheme by the Government of India to provide, particularly after seeing the COVID and the migration of labor, because they were not having any house. So this scheme was launched, and presently the identification is done state-wise that how many houses of the government or government funded organizations are lying vacant, which can be converted and used. And for that, the management and maintenance of these houses will be done either by the public agencies, that is Housing Board and Development Authorities, or in public-private partnership mode. And they can be leased for 25 years minimum. These housing can be for up to 25 years. That is the idea to use these houses. Now, apart from the central government, state government also, have taken various initiatives to provide housing to the people. We have Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Haryana, Jharkhand, Odisha, Punjab, Rajasthan, West Bengal. They all have provided, different kind of schemes to house their own poor people, landless people, EWS category people, below the poverty line people. Now, if we look at all these schemes, the common thread coming out of these schemes is that they want to provide land to the landless persons. So through these schemes, land is provided so that landless person can put their house or a house structure their own. Where they are occupying certain land, public land, the attempt is to provide legal right over that land to construct houses and secure loan. We have the Jaga mission going on in Odisha also, where people are staying in a particular house that is extended. The legal right is given to them so that they can secure loan and construct their houses. Now, these policies cater to different category of persons: scheduled caste, backward class, EWS, LIG, government employee, women, tribal. So the state schemes are targeting different category of persons so that these category of persons can be benefited from the housing schemes. The scheme involves giving free houses, extending loans, or giving interest subsidy in the interest rates. So subsidy in the interest, loan amount, and free houses, these are the kind of schemes which the government is, through which government is facilitating. Now, they are also incentivizing developers to construct houses for LIG and EWS because particularly in Bombay, in Dharavi, you get TDR. If you construct certain houses, then at some place you will get TDR which can be sold. So incentives are given to developer to construct certain houses for LIG and EWS category. And also these schemes encourage people to construct, basic amenities in their houses like toilets, kitchen, etc. So this kind of housing is, provided. So with this, I think I have already, overshoot my time. I thanks all the participants for hearing patiently. Basically, my idea was to bring home the points. What is the housing shortage in the country? Why this housing shortage? What are the factors which create more demand for housing? What policies government of India has adopted? What policies government of various states are adopting? And to where we are leading to. The conclusion is that still we are short of housing, particularly in EWS and LIG category, which is, if I put it, much below even the affordable category. Thank you very much. Over to Mahata.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a nice information covering all aspects of the policy making. And it's information to all of us, sir. Very, very recent developments also have been covered by you, sir. Thank you very much. And hope all of you have been benefited with this. There was a question from T. Narayan Prasad. T. Narayan Prasad. What was your question? I could not understand.
I have a question. When our third survey will begin? Because we have done first survey, second survey.
First survey, second survey. Come again. Can you
already done? So when it will happen? When it will help? Yeah, is there any specific information?
Sorry, we couldn't understand. You are from which organization in Narayana?
Okay, I will text here.
Sorry?
I'm in a noiseful area, so I will text
Okay.
briefly.
Okay. Because thank you. Let us understand your question. We will reply in between.
You post your question, we will definitely reply.
Yes.
Yeah. So he can share his question in the chat box so that we will further take up, because we have already on time, so that you can start the session, sir. Neil, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mehtabji. So next session is on terminologies. The various terminologies which are used for housing finance. So we have dealt with this subject in last sessions also in April. What I'll try to do that we'll re-emphasize those aspects and pick up few terms in more clear terms where you can ask questions actually, so that the terms which are in use in housing finance are very clear to all of you. First is the floor area ratio. You must be hearing this FAR, FSI, FSR, these terms day in, day out when we are dealing with any construction activity or any building. Floor area ratio becomes very important. What is a floor area ratio? It's a ratio of building's total floor area, whatever is constructed, to the size of the piece of land upon which it is constructed. That should be very clear. What is the measure that this floor area ratio has impact on land value? If higher is FAR, the land value, because more floors can be constructed, land value increases. FAR yields higher land value. Higher FAR, that will yield higher land value. What are the provisions? There are certain common exclusions to the calculation of FAR. Just like unoccupied areas such as mechanical equipment floors, basements, stairs, elevator shafts, and parking garages, they are not part of FAR. In India, we adopt from 1.3 to 3.25. In Mumbai, various areas are there. So depending upon the FAR permitted by the local authority, municipal authority, or development authority, construction area activity is taken on a piece of land. But FAR in itself, how it is worked out? Gross floor area divided by the total area of the plot. Simple. In numerical terms, if gross floor area has area of 150 square feet, and you are constructing on 150 square feet on 100 square feet area of plot, then FAR is 1.5. This can be expressed in percentage terms also. Then it is called FAI, floor area index. The same is depicted in percentage term. Total floor area constructed on a particular piece of land, it will be depicted in percentage terms. FAI, floor area index. So there is only presentation difference. What is the purpose of FAR? The basic purpose of FAR is that this will decide the urban density. If we want to have higher density, then higher FAR will be allowed. So if authority has asked that 1.5 FAR should be taken into account in this area, then total, if the piece of the plot is 10,000 square feet, the construction must not exceed 15,000 square feet in that building. That is the purpose of coming to the urban density. What will be the impact of FAR or FSI? Say, you see, FAR can be executed in various ways. On a piece of plot, if the builder constructs on 75% of site, he can construct two-story building covering 75% of site and can leave 25% for green. That will also give FAR of 1.5. Similarly, if 50% of site is covered, then he can construct three-story building. That will lead to 1.5. So what does that mean? That then BCR also becomes a very important formula for urban construction. That is building coverage ratio. How much of the open plot, how much area of the open plot will be covered by the building? So that will also decide what will be the quality and how many floors will be constructed. This is depicted in this small graph in a beautiful manner. You can see if FAR or FSI is 0.25 or 25% and BCR is 25%. That means on a whole plot, you can construct a single story building in 25% area of the plot, and 75% of area will remain green. For horticulture or greenery purposes, it will remain open. It's open space. So then BCR also becomes a very, very important factor along with the FAR. So this formula is adopted in all the way up to 200%. If BCR is 25%, green will remain, open area will remain 75%. Only on the 25%, 200% construction will be done. So number of floors will increase. Numbers of floors will increase. That will depend upon the BCR. If 50% is the BCR, then 50% area will remain open for other uses, and the construction, if FAR is increasing, then the FAR will be covered in the number of stories to be constructed. That is these two are very important factors, FAR and BCR. That will decide the quality of construction and quality of or what kind of open area will be available in that particular premises. The next term is very, very commonly used is carpet area, and RERA also says all the sales should be done on the carpet area. As per the RERA definition, carpet is net usable floor area. Net usable floor area, which will exclude the area covered by the external walls of a total flat, area covered by the external walls will be out of the purview of the carpet. So then it's from within the wall, whatever area is lying will be part of the carpet. So service shafts, it will exclude balcony, veranda area, not be part of carpet area. It includes only the internal partition walls, which are part of the internal partition walls that are part of carpet area. But the outside wall is not the part of the carpet area. So in a brief, it can be understood that whatever is within those walls of means those walls of a flat, inside whatever is lying is the carpet area of the flat. So just to go into more detail, the carpet area is that which is enclosed within the walls of the outer walls of the flat. So an area inside house, which is where we can lay a carpet, considering that okay, there are no internal partitions, we can lay a carpet within the internal area of the house or flat. That will be the carpet area. Sometimes we may include a percentage of balcony and terrace just to improve the carpet area. But okay, those amenities are also available. Sometimes it can also be part of the percentage of that balcony or terrace or veranda may be part of the considered carpet area is available. So if carpet area is high, that means we are getting higher space within that flat or building. Now the next term is built up. Carpet area, then built up area. What is the difference? Built up area, as we said, outer line of flat is important for us for carpet area, but we are not covering those walls. Now it will cover, built up area will cover those walls as well as balcony and terrace, etc. So then it refers to the usable. That means carpet area plus the area occupied by the walls, outer walls, columns of flat, and a little more, which are in shape of balcony, terraces, which are part of the flat, So carpet area, built up area, then comes super built up area. Hope built up area is clear to all of you. Built up area is, say in carpet area, we were excluding the outer walls. In built up area, walls are also included, plus balconies and terraces, which are part of the flat, they are also part of the built up area. This is a description. The built up area will normally include balcony and a terrace, roof area, mezzanine, detached habitable areas such as servants' room, etc., columns and walls. And if the wall is common between two flats, then 50% of that wall. The breadth of the wall, 50% will be within the built up area of one flat. If it is not shared, then the 100% of that area will come. So next term is super built up area. We have discussed carpet, built up, then we are trying to understand super built up area. Super built up area is the total built up area of flat that is explained before, plus proportionate share of the common amenities available in that society or complex, common amenities. So this is called sellable area also. So proportionate share here refers to sum total of common areas divided by the total number of flats. A society having 100 flats, and there are certain common amenities available to all those 100 flats. So all that will be divided by 100 flats to arrive at the super built up area. So that is super built up area. That means it will include flat, carpet, walls, balconies, terraces, and the common amenities. Common amenities which are proportionate to the flat. Out of 100 flat, which proportion of the total built up common amenities will come, that will be the super built up area of a particular flat. What are the areas which will be included in the super built up? Percentage of the double height areas and terraces, entrance lobby, common corridors, staircases, lift shafts, lift lobby where the lift opens, and other landing areas. Then lift machine rooms, generator rooms, electrical rooms. These all are amenities available in a complex. They will be part of super built up area. But total area will be divided by the number of flats to arrive at super built up area of one flat. Gas banks, garbage rooms, clubhouse, common amenity, security rooms, indoor sports rooms, and if there are general toilet facilities for servants or maintenance staff, those all will become part of the super built up area. What will not be part of super built up? Underground sumps, water or septic tanks. They are not part of the super built. Compound walls, open to sky walkways, which are open to sky, or open to sky swimming pool also is not considered to be part of super built up area. So these four terms are very important. FAI, FSI, or then carpet, built up, and super built up. Then comes a term which is pre-EMI, PEMI. It's very, very commonly used in credit. What is PEMI? Normally, when you buy a home which is under construction, the home financing bank or home lending institution will not pay the entire amount to the builder at one stage if it is under construction. So then payments are to be made in stages as construction is completed. So as per the construction stage, payments will be released. So then at this point of time, there is no payment of EMI. When the EMI will start? EMI starts normally after full payment has been disbursed. Full amount of the loan has been disbursed, then the EMI will start. But before that, whatever amount is released by the lender, that incurs interest rate. So that payment of that interest rate is pre-EMI payment. That interest which is charged before full disbursement. In the case of stage-wise disbursements, that is called pre-EMI payments, PEMI, pre-EMI payments. So interest loaded on the partial disbursements, which is paid, recovered from the borrower, is pre-EMI. Next is equated monthly installment, which is also very common term. Say normally after full disbursement or one lump sum disbursement, EMI will start. So EMI begins when the loan is fully disbursed. Though EMI per se is an unequal combination of interest and principal repayment. But in nutshell, this is a one figure which you are required to pay throughout the tenure of the loan. Component of that figure may differ. In initial start EMI, your interest payment is higher, principal repayment is lower, which grows, interest payment goes down and principal repayment goes up in later on stages of EMI. The EMI is the amount of money a borrower has to pay every month in order to repay the loan. If loan has been sanctioned for 15 years, throughout the 15 years of the life, EMI will remain same almost, unless there is change in interest rate, and interest rate change will be in variable rate of interest. If variable rate of interest clause is there, that interest rate will change, that will change the EMI also. So EMI will normally, in normal with the same interest rate, it will remain same throughout the tenure of the loan. That EMI remains constant throughout the repayment period, subject to changes in rate of interest. So what are the components of EMI? Components of EMI are the principal, what is the actual loan amount, depending upon the principal and repayment period and rate of interest, the EMI will be decided. And what is the periodicity of application of rate of interest, that will also decide the EMI, how EMI will be computed. So these 4 factors will decide the EMI. Difference between EMI and PME would have been clear by now, that EMI begins only when the loan is fully disbursed, while pre-EMI starts with the first disbursement of the loan. When the loan is partially disbursed, then only interest payments are made on the amount disbursed. So these interest payments made before the loan is fully disbursed, those payments towards the loan, they are called pre-EMI, while EMI will start only after full disbursement. So partial disbursement is normally made in stages, not at one go, which is otherwise in the case of full disbursement, it is made in one go. So when an apartment is being purchased by, which is under construction from a builder, the borrower, full amount will not be released at one stage. Money will be released in stages, depending on the stage of construction. Just like on 20% of the construction, a part will be released, up to first floor, the 20% of the payment will be released. And at the last floor is constructed, 40% of the payment will be released. So as per the payment demand by the builder, it will be released in stages. So in all those stages, partial disbursement will be made. So most of the under construction properties, there will be a partial disbursement, where PME will also come. Till the full disbursement, pre-EMI will be paid. Now, fixed rate of interest. What is a fixed rate of interest? A fixed interest rate is unchanging rate. This is considered not to change during the entire term of the loan. So throughout a set period, you can say, if it is not covering entire period, it may cover set period also, period of 5 years. Then it may have a reset clause. So that is also a fixed interest rate for a set period. So those mortgages which can have, then mortgages can have multiple interest rate also. For a period, a different rate, which may combine fixed rate for some portion of the term and adjustable rate or variable rate for balance. So those loans are called on hybrid. One is fixed rate. If loan a particular period for a particular, there is a particular, for a particular period, there is fixed rate of interest, and after that period, rate of interest is adjustable on the balance amount of the loan. Then those loans are called hybrid interest rate loans. Instead of fixed interest rate, those loans are called on hybrid interest rate, where till a particular set of period, fixed rate of interest is charged, and the balance amount, variable or adjustable rate is charged. Those loans are hybrid rate of interest. The interest rate on fixed rate loan remains same during the life of the loan. Normally, it should remain, but no lender can afford that. So for 15 years, no lender can decide. So that's why they have a reset clause kind of. We will reset the loan after 5 years, like that. Since the borrower's payments stay the same, it is easier to budget for the future. Fixed interest rates can be higher than the variable rates. Normally, a lender charges little higher than the variable rate, which is being charged today. Because variable rate, lender has liberty to change the rates. But for fixed interest rate, it will be fixed for the set period, decided between two of them, borrower and lender. Fixed interest rate avoids the risk that a mortgage or loan repayment can significantly increase over time. Sometimes if we go for fixed interest rate, that will avoid the risk of increase in the rate of interest. So normally, borrower will always like to opt for a fixed rate loan during periods of low interest rate. So today, if interest rates are very low, it is around 7 or 9%, depending upon the institution. So borrowers at this point of time will like to have fixed interest rate loans, so that can it remain for longer period at the same rate, which is available during this low interest rate regime. Next is floating rate. So we have discussed fixed and hybrid. Hybrid in fixed, in hybrid, there was a par period was on fixed, then balance period was on floating or adjustable rate. But in this case, floating rate of interest, this interest is variable ab initio from the day one till the end of the tenure. It is on variable interest rate because interest rate can vary, and it may be linked to a market or reference rate. It may be linked to repo rate or any other rate. It may be linked. So that floating rate will change as per the change in that reference rate. It can be linked to repo or any other rate. It may be linked to the basic PLR or base rate or any other rate may be linked. So, but this will float around. This will be variable rate of interest. It will change as per the change in the reference rate. So floating rates are also called variable rates because they are varying. The advantage and disadvantage of floating rates. Mortgages or adjustable rate mortgages, which we say variable rate, they tend to have lower introductory interest rates than fixed rate mortgages. So in start of the repayment cycle, adjustable rate mortgages may have a lower rate of interest, but they look very appealing at the start. But since they have a nature of changing as per the change in the reference rate, so increase in the rate will also impact this kind of floating rate. There is in future interest rate changes, the variable rate will also change as per the change in the reference rate. The floating rate is useful or advantageous in case of low interest rate regime. But if there is possibility of increase in rate in future, then the fixed rate mortgages can be opted for. The other advantage is that floating rate interest may sometimes float down if market is already high. So then floating rate interest becomes a little more lucrative because it may float down in future if interest rates are high, and we are expecting that this may float down. Then a floating rate option is better than the fixed rate option. As we have discussed, that variable interest rate or adjustable rate mortgages, these are two names given to the same thing, synonym. Variable interest rate or adjustable rate mortgages, they change periodically. A borrower typically receives an introductory rate for a set period of time, often for 1, 3, or 5 years. The rate adjusts on a periodic basis after that point. And since variable rates are linked to some reference rate, they may change as per the change in the reference rate. But this fixed rate may have a preset period because nobody offers you 15-year fixed rate. They may offer you sometimes 3 or 5 years fixed rate, and later on it may have a reset clause because depending upon the cost of the fund, it will change. So next term is fixed obligation to income ratio, which is very important in credit or assessment of credit need of borrower. FOIR, fixed obligations to income ratio. So this is one good parameter of working out loan eligibility of the applicant. In earlier days, it was used to consider that what is your debt take home. That has been replaced with this fixed obligation to income ratio. The bank considers all installments of all the loans availed hitherto, aaj tak aapne jo liya, to applicant, and which are due. What is the impact on your salary? So all EMI of outstanding loans plus EMI of the proposed loan, which a borrower is asking now, will decide the fixed obligations. Vis-a-vis income, what is the ratio? That is the purpose of. So that will decide the loan eligibility. FOIR accounts for all fixed obligations that a borrower is likely to meet regularly on a monthly basis. So what it will include? It will include loan installments, which are not paid through the salary, outside the purview of salary. Credit card payments of a fixed nature, of suppose EMI payments are there, so it will include those. But it will not include provident fund. It will not include insurance, because those are compulsive saving. It will not include it. Then banks may have different FOIR criteria for different kind of lending. Just like in personal loan, a bank may ask for fixed obligation to income ratio at 50%, while it may be 35 to 40% for a home loan. So in normal terms, in general terms, a bank considers 50% as the safe FOIR. Suppose a person has higher income, then it may consider it little higher also. Obligations may be little higher, since a person with higher salary may have higher capacity to repay. Then the bank may take a decision to consider a higher FOIR also. All deduction EMI for proposed loan divided by the gross monthly income, which is as per the appraisal of the lending officer, credit officer, into 100 will be FOIR. That is the formula of working out of FOIR. So this, in nutshell, this determines the repaying capacity of the borrower, how much he has capacity, and this will also give us how much EMI this borrower can repay if I am giving him credit or loan of housing loan, house construction purpose. So on a reverse calculation, this helps us to work out what amount of EMI this borrower can sustain. So if earning income of a borrower is 90,000 per month, he is already servicing a personal loan installment of 8,000 and a car loan installment of 6,000. So then can we calculate what quantum of finance can be given to him? So if my FOIR is 50%, so his disposable income remains to be 45,000, on which he is paying 6,000 as car loan EMI, personal loan EMI 8,000. Then that means disposable income for this loan, which I am considering today as a credit officer, is 31,000. So I'll work out what quantum of loan will be met out through this EMI. From EMI chart, we can work out what quantum of loan can be financed to this borrower. So 31,000 will be the disposable income and EMI considered for a loan to be considered for this borrower. This we have already discussed. Deductions to be considered from last month's salary. Deduction on income tax, other statutory deductions, and other loans, EMI payment. Actually, life insurance premiums are not part of that. Then a very, very important term, as important as FOIR for a credit assessment, is loan to value. Loan to value is a financial term used by lenders to express the ratio of loan to the value of an asset purchase. This is the value of the asset, what quantum of loan we are going to finance. LTV, loan to value ratio, assesses that. So in nutshell, this assesses the lending risk, and this assesses what amount or margin is being provided by the customer or borrower towards this project. If his skin in the game, his skin is in the game, then he will also be more responsible. That's why we always try to have some kind of a higher LTV. Loan should be at a lower level to the vis-a-vis value. Increase by margin. High LTV ratios are higher risk. Low LTVs are lower risk. So loan to value will decide what kind of risk I'm taking. Lending risk. And that may decide your rate of interest also. If risk is higher, then rate of interest will also be higher. This is the formula to calculate LTV, total loan outstanding, total value of the property will arrive at LTV. That we know, if LTV is high, then we will like to protect us with some other instruments like mortgage insurance, if LTV is very high. But if LTV is low, we can consider a borrower with low credit scores also, low debt to income ratio. If LTV is low, since we are protected there, below 80% LTV, okay, we can consider a borrower with some low credit score also, which we may not consider if LTV is high. Thank you. Thank you very much. This was all. Any question on that I can answer at this point of time. Because I wanted to limit myself to some limited aspect which are very important in for the credit appraisal.
So one question from Mr. Amitabh.
Okay, Amitabh, can you come, because I could not see the chat box. Is it in chat box? Okay.
Yeah, let me.
Sir, what is the time period for full disbursement? Say full disbursement, it will be decided by the lending institution. RBI permits up to 30 years now. That time will be decided by, can I stop sharing of the slides? Any question on the slides? Anybody want to ask? Any question on the slides? Just for the sake of recapitulating, I can repeat the things.
Yeah, you can, sir.
Should we consider gold loan? Somebody had asked me. Somebody has asked me, should we consider gold loan? What is the question? Who is the participant who want to ask this?
Mr. Sobik Day.
Okay, Sobik Day.
Yeah.
Should we consider gold loan interest payouts or credit card payments for FYR collection? Gold loan interest payouts or credit card, 100% credit card payment as well as gold loan. Because if he is paying towards any other agency, his overall repaying capacity is reduced by that amount. So either he will fail there if you are considering him higher finance, he will fail there, or he will not pay you. So he will not fail there because his gold is deposited there. He will try to fail here because, okay, we'll see later on.
Hello.
So there is a question from Amitwa Jana.
Yeah.
About full disbursement. You know, it
Yes.
depends on the nature of property. If it is a ready-made house, the full disbursement can be made in one go. If it is
a ready-made house,
if it is a project going on, then disbursement will be made stage-wise, and
yes,
ultimately it will depend upon the agreement between the lender and the borrower.
yes.
So normally they go, stage-wise, and up to 90% disbursement will be made when building is almost complete and final touches are, to be made. So the answer is that in case of ready-made house, it can be in one go. Otherwise, depends on the stage of construction and the matching contribution by the promoter developer and the borrower.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So one question from Binapani Mishra from Swad, Orissa. Ma'am, can you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can I audible?
Yeah. You are.
I only want to know whether the government is following the rules which is in the policy that sir is sharing with us. That is the surface area and the floor area, the building the houses, all the rules and regulations is included in the housing scheme of the government.
Definitely, so far as government projects are concerned, they definitely factor whatever is the master plan and whatever is the rules and regulations of the municipality or the other local body working there. All these are factored, while government prepare plans.
Now, while they are planning, that is okay, but which is going on in the rural area, I think most of the houses are not according to the rules and
In the rural
regulations.
areas, the construction is on individual basis, and if there is a site plan approval process in that particular village, then the construction has to be as per that. But in practice, what you may say is right. But theoretically, yes, whatever site plan is approved by Gram Panchayat, if there is such procedure. Otherwise, whatever the parameter, if you want to avail any subsidy from the government, then you have to construct according to the parameters laid down by the government.
No,
Okay, sir.
Bina Pani, I want to add one thing more. Say if you are working on PMAY, they say it should not exceed a particular square feet of carpet area. Then you must understand what is carpet area. In Prime Minister Awas Yojana also, there is a restriction of carpet area. To claim a benefit also, there is a restriction. So that is the set. In terminology, we must be very clear in our thoughts. What is a carpet area? What kind of floor areas are permitted? And under certain government schemes, those even for microfinance or for smaller borrowers also, those things are to be taken care of.
Yes, great, sir, great. So, like Miss Aisha Khan wants to say something from the participant side. Like Miss Aisha Khan wants to say something.
Yes, Aisha, come. Please come.
Anyone has any question on this second session of basic terminology and definition? So you can ask so that we can start our next and
Yeah.
very exciting session.
Let us start next session, and whatever questions are there, you just put in chat box, we'll answer. Don't worry.
Yeah, one more participant. Yeah, please.
I
1+5.
would like to mention that in the reading material which has been supplied to the participant, number of other terminology which are used in housing finance have been given. We request the participants to go through that terminology that will help them in understanding, the terms which are used in the housing finance business.
Yes, Mr. Pinkun Delai. Yes, please. You are not audible, Mr. Pinkun Delai. You are not audible. Can you come up again? We can't hear you. Can you explain in detail? The network problem is there, I think. Any more questions from participants? I think, Chadda sir, you can start your sessions. Participant can share their questions in the chat box. We'll take up and answer it. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Before starting my presentation, if I use the mixed language, Hindi and English, which is understandable by everybody, will that do? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because it is better that everybody understands what I speak. So that is the basics. Now, topic is the institutional framework for housing finance in India. What are the institutions which are working in the housing finance space or supporting the housing finance business? That all will be discussed in this particular. But before I started the actual framework, I would like to give you the historical aspect also of the housing finance. Even before the having the institutional framework, in the ancient time also there used to be the housing finance. and it is from ages. So first we have to understand what is the informal housing finance system, or the finance system which is outside the formal framework of the housing finance in India. So my first slide is about the sources of informal housing sector. So when we discuss about the sources from where you can draw the housing finance, first we'll discuss the informal sector. So informal sector is age old, ancient, and we all are aware of it. In short, I will explain that we borrow from the friends and relative local money lenders like Baniyas, Seths, Chettiars, goldsmiths. We also take money from the local landlords, which we call as Zamindar, Thakurs, etc. in different places. Then from the traders who are giving us the input for our agriculture activities or for other activities in the rural area, or produce buyers, dalals, etc. So all these are coming under the informal sector. Now there are certain problems with this informal sector which the rulers or the governments are facing. First, that there is no taxation and there is a high interest rate for home seekers for these particular kind of borrowings. Second is they finance for construction of the house in any manner, anywhere. So construction is unplanned and hazardous development takes place. Third is there is an exploitation of the home seeker, because home seeker is in demand. He is not getting the finance from a formal sector. So he approached these people and they charge the higher rate of interest. And it is a source of black money generation in the financial system, and investment of the black money also comes in this by this particular way in the housing finance system. Then such lendings by local money lenders, by friends, relatives, it nowhere reflect in our national economy, our GDP, national planning, developmental goals, etc. So these are the basic problems. So if we see that in the initial years of our independence, there were very few institutions, like there were life insurance companies and general insurance companies, pension funds, banks, etc. But later on, the life insurance companies were brought into the Life Insurance Corporation of India, and there was a nationalization of general insurance also. But there were very few institutions which were giving the housing loans. Then second is the budgetary allocation used to be there, like construction of police lines, army quarters, government quarters. Then for the initial stages, the loans were given to the migrants also from across the border. So these kind of, the government's role was as a builder only, because government at that time used to build the houses, whether it is in civil lines, whether it is for the government employees. So they were building and giving it to normally through the PWDs, public works departments. Then by 1977, only one HFC was there. The HDFC came into existence and started giving loan in formal sector to the house seekers, but their lending was also limited to the higher economics like IAS, IPS officers, senior bureaucrats, politicians. So the working of the housing finance system was limited, or the source of housing finance was informal practically. So by coming to the early 80s, when we opened our system, the issue came about a clear housing policy and planned development in housing sector should take place for the better growth of the infrastructure in India. With that, the housing policy, as Garg Sahab has already explained, I'll go in a very short in this. The housing policies were announced in 1988 and 98. Then under these policies, which are the major steps taken up, apart from what Mr. Garg has discussed, was the setup of NHB, Now government is now housing facilitator rather than provider. See, as I explained you that in earlier years, the the government's role was as a housing builder. Now under the new system or under the national housing policy, it was decided that the government will not build the houses or provide the finance for housing. They were only be facilitating for construction of houses in the country in a planned manner, and for a loan or for requirement of funds for housing, the individuals or the builders, etc., are to approach to the formal finance system, which was at that time initially banks and few HFCs. Now, at present, there is a vast network of banks, HFCs, other lenders, which are providing housing loans to individuals. And by introduction of MFIs, microfinance institutions, government is attempting to convert the informal sector also into the formal sector. So it is the MFIs has basically working in the area of informal formal sector, integrating the informal sector. In that way, their role is very, very important for the small HFCs or for the small players or regional players. Their role is very important to converting the informal sector lendings into the formal sector lendings. In the process, our new government, present government is striving to have the housing for all by 2022. For this purpose, the government has given many fiscal incentives, means income tax benefits. There are other fiscal benefits are also given in the shape of subsidies or subsidized rate of construction material, less tax on the construction materials, etc. Now, to the borrowers are also there the benefits, to the developers by lesser GST on many products like steel rods or cement, etc. And there are benefits to the lenders also if they lend by way of giving them the capital, lesser capital charge on the housing loans. Only 50% of that lending is considered for capital contribution. In the process, by the national policy, housing, which was earlier considered as a consumer finance, is converted as a major component of economy because it employs a lot of people. It is the second largest employment generator after the agriculture sector. So the government has now taken it into priority sector. By including the housing under priority sector, the banks are now have to lend some specific amount to the housing sector, and there is a target provided to the banks and other lenders to give the loan for the housing sector. And the housing is now being considered as part of our infrastructure development also. So by that, there are external commercial borrowings and foreign direct investments are also permitted in the housing sector. Not only the national housing policy, but at state level also, there are housing plans and housing policies are being developed. So few states have started working on such, not few, now many of these states are having their own state level housing policies and plans. And as the constitutional provisions have gone to the local bodies also, then policies and plans are being developed at the local level also. New avenues for finding the sources of housings are also being explored in the shape of external commercial borrowings, foreign direct investments, then introduction of the secondary mortgage market and mortgage-backed securitization, etc. Now even the lender can also sell his loan portfolio to some other person if he requires the money for further lending. By all this means, the basic aim is to generate the public confidence in taking the housing loans at a reasonable rate. And to generate the public confidence, the market players, most of the market players are now being regulated by respective authorities also. That includes the housing finance companies, MFIs, by RBI, builders by the building organizations or state authorities, then agents also under RERA, etc. So all these kind of regulations have also come for different players which are coming in the market, housing market. And this all generates the public confidence in borrowing from the formal sector rather than going for the informal borrowings. Now I come to the formal sector. So for easy understanding, आसानी से समझ आ जाए, इसलिए because of that I have divided the formal sector into three basic components. That is the institutional, which are providing direct finance, which are banks, housing finance companies, self-help groups, MFIs, cooperative banks, housing cooperative systems, government housings, employee schemes. Government is also providing the housing. So that system is also there. Then housing boards are also there, which are providing direct assistance for housing. But housing boards' role of providing finance is diminishing. Earlier, they were giving finance in the shape of hire purchase financing. But because government is coming out of from the providing the housing finance and concentrating on facilitator, housing boards are also coming out of from the financing role. Then second, which are providing indirect financing assistance. When we talk of the institutions which are providing indirect housing finance assistance, is that like government has given certain institutions to contribute towards the housing through investing in the banks and RBI bonds, NHB bonds, etc. Now, LIC and General Insurance Corporation, for that matter, are long-term, are getting the money, which is basically providing the individuals a social security. And housing is one of the biggest social security. That is why it was thought that the contribution or the corpus of LIC and General Insurance Corporation should be utilized also for the housing sector. And government has asked them, directed them to invest in the public sector bonds, government bonds for the housing purposes also. Same is the case of provident fund and pension funds, which are in existence. Then UTI and mutual funds also required to invest some amount of their funds, debt funds in the housing sector. The third category is of the facilitators. The facilitators are which help the lender as well as borrower to obtain the housing loan. They are the insurers. Asset and mortgage insurance are two basic things. Like if your house is insured, the lender will be more easily give you the land. Similarly, if you yourself has an insurance or individual has an insurance, the lender has a confidence in the borrower. Then there are credit bureaus which gives the credit assessment of the individuals and corporates to the lenders. So rating agencies are there. So then there are mortgage guarantors also. See, at a lower strata, when you make the financing, then government has come out with the credit risk guarantee fund trust that guarantees the loans given to the small borrowers by the government. So by a very nominal amount paying to the credit guarantee fund trust, you can get security of the government for repayment of your housing loans as a lender. Similarly, the Indian Mortgage Guarantee Company is also in the market. There are other mortgage guarantors are also coming in the market slowly. These are the basic framework I have given, where there are three kinds of. One is the direct finance, second is the secondary finance, and third is the facilitator. So all three I will discuss now one by one. So when we talk of the direct finance, the big commercial banks are the biggest lenders to the housing sector. There was a time in between when housing finance companies were competing with the banks, but still the banks lending to the housing is the largest. Now, when we talk of the banks, we have two kinds of banks. Basically, I will not go into detail into the kinds of different banks, but there are scheduled banks which are included under the second schedule of the RBI, and there are non-scheduled banks also, which includes the local area banks. There are very few local area banks like Coastal Bank, Capital Banks, Subhadra Bank, etc. Then there are development banks like NABARD, NHB, etc. Then there are investment banks which are investing the funds in the financial sector. They are giving the funds to the housing finance also. Then there are industrial banks which are funding to the industries, different kind of industries which are giving the housing material. Yes. Now, you have to understand that how the banks are being asked or directed to lend the particular amount of funds towards housing. There is a targeted funding by the RBI. So RBI has issues the housing finance target for banks. So whatever a bank collects in a year, that is the incremental deposits from the depositors, 3% of it, it has to give for the housing finance. Say a bank is having 1,000 crore worth of assets, but in a year it adds 100 crores more of deposits to its kitty. Then 3% of it means 3 crores it has to give to the housing sector. Now this contribution may be by direct finance, by indirect finance, or investment in bonds of NHB HUDCO. The NHB HUDCO etc. are lending for the housing. So even the banks who cannot lend, like there are certain foreign banks which have limited branches. There are other banks which have a limited branches. So they can contribute. If they cannot have a lending base, then they can contribute to the bonds of the HUDCO, NHB, or in the banks also, and give the funds to them for onward lending for housing. Now, while doing so, the banks boards have been given freedom to evolve their own guidelines for granting housing finance. See, the Reserve Bank has given a specified parameters for housing finance, and within that, the boards of the companies, MFIs, HFCs, NBFCs, or banks have been given power that they will lay down their own policy guidelines, that to whom they will lend, how they will lend, but they have to lend a specified targeted amount. Banks are permitted to issue long-term bonds for affordable housing. See, sometimes the demand is more and bank doesn't have the funds. So banks are permitted to borrow from the international markets or the local market long-term bonds also. And on those bonds, certain benefits in CSR, CRR, cash reserve ratio, and statutory liquidity reserves are also given. And they are not included into NDTL and HTL, that is the high leverage transactions or net demand term liability of the banks. These borrowings are not being treated as a borrowings. For this, what are the directions to the banks? I'll advise you to have this RBI's master circular. I have given here the reference in my slide. Those who want, I'll wait for a minute. You can take down it and you will get the master circular on housing finance for banks. Then Reserve Bank has also asked the banks to establish specialized housing finance branches. See, banks earlier have been asked to have the agriculture branches, industrial financing branches, specialized branches where they used to have the particular staff who was well versed with the lending in these sectors. Similarly, banks have been advised to have the specialized housing finance branches. Earlier, this was provided, and it is also available under para 8 of the RBI circular of housing finance in 2007. But it is not now there because the establishment of the branches is no more a goal of the government. Further branches. Next is the housing loans of banks are treated under priority sector lending also. See, if the banks give housing loans, it will be treated under the priority sector lending, because government has again fixed that if a 1,000 rupee lending the bank is doing, then 40% of it should go to the priority sectors. The priority sectors includes the agriculture, then your MSME sector, then foreign fundings, foreign trade finance, infrastructure development, and it includes housing also. If a loan is considered, a housing loan is considered under the priority sector, for that the parameters have been decided. Not every housing loan will be treated as a priority sector lending, but where the bank, where the RBI feels that or the government desires that the priority should be given for such kind of lending, where there is a more demand and there is a more gap in housing stock. So it includes in metropolitan area, if lending, maximum lending 35 lakhs is under the priority sector, and metropolitan center is considered where the population is less than 10 lakhs and units cost is 40 lakhs. So if a person is purchasing a flat where the unit cost is 40 lakhs, then 35 lakhs funding can be made, and up to 30, if the lending is up to 35 lakhs, it will be considered under priority sector. In other centers, any housing loan up to 25 lakhs will be considered as a priority sector lending. And if the loan is given for repair and renovation and it is less than 10 lakhs of rupees, sorry, in a center which is less than 10 lakhs, sorry, metropolitan center up to 10 lakhs you can give for repair renovation, and 6 lakhs in other centers which will be considered as a priority sector lending to individuals. Now certain benefits or certain sectors or certain lendings for housing to the project lending also been considered under the priority sector lending, which includes the government agencies. If a bank is funding to a government agency for slum clearance, slum dwellers rehabilitation, and is subject to ceiling of rupees 10 lakh per dwelling units, means in that particular project, no dwelling unit is more than rupees 10 lakhs, and it is for slum clearance or slum dwellers rehabilitation, and it is given to government agencies, then it is considered under priority sector. So banks lending to this sector is also considered as a priority sector. Then if a construction is for projects of for EWS and LIG, economically weaker sections and lower income groups, and cost of the per flat is or per housing unit is less than 10 lakhs, and where the family income is less than rupees 2 lakh per annum, then such housing projects will also be considered under the priority sector. Or project lending made for such housing projects is also considered as a priority sector. Third is the affordable housing projects. So many a times the candidates ask, sir, affordable housing projects are, which are the housing affordable housing projects? So affordable housing projects are where 50% houses or carpet area is less than 60 meter flat size. So this is the constructed area size, where the flat or the house is less than 60 meter and 50% floor area of the project is for these kind of housing, that will be considered as an affordable housing project. Then for on lending to HFCs, a bank is lending to an HFC which is approved for refinance, or to RRB or small finance banks or local area banks for lending to the individuals where the each lending is less than 20 lakhs. So that will also be considered, that project lending or that particular lending will also be considered as a priority sector lending of the banks. Thereafter, there is a co-lending also. See, a bank along with an HFC finance, they co-lend to a particular project together. And in that case, if bank's money, if the construction cost of the flat is less than 20 lakhs, then that amount will also be considered as a priority sector lending. Those who desire to know about the priority sector lendings, they can have the RBI circular. I have given here the number of the circular. Now, there is one more category that is covered under PMAY housing projects. So, housing projects which are for EWS and LIG housing, and the allotment is made to the income up to rupees 6 lakhs per annum for EWS and for LIG 3 lakhs per annum. In that case, those particular projects are also under those housing projects are also under PMAY, and the fundings can be given to that also under priority sector. If anybody is not clear, you can put up your question and I will take it afterwards together. Second biggest lender is the housing finance companies. As Garg Sahab has already explained that together, both of them together has given around 22 lakh crores of rupees for the housing finance to individuals. Now, housing finance companies are the companies which are incorporated, and in their incorporation under the Companies Act primarily to provide finance for housing. See, their main object is to provide finance for housing, and they are registered under the Companies Act or incorporated under the Companies Act. Now, these companies are required registration and regulated by RBI. The registration was earlier with the NHB. Now, registration and regulation is with the Reserve Bank of India, and supervision of these companies is being done by the National Housing Bank. Till 2020, registration, regulation and supervision, everything was with the NHB. But since NHB's capital is transferred from Reserve Bank of India to government, the particular this is functioning is shifted, because financial sector is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. So the regulation of the housing finance company and their registration is shifted to the Reserve Bank of India. Now, housing finance companies primarily providing finance for housing. Earlier, the HFCs were registered with NHB, and NHB was the primary lending. The HFC, which was primarily lending for housing, was considered as a housing finance companies. But under the RBI norms, the HFCs are required to have 60% of net assets. See, whatever their lending assets or net assets, 60% of that should be financed only for housing. And out of 60%, minimum 50% for housing finance to individuals should be there. So a housing finance company, to being qualified as a housing finance company, it should achieve this particular parameters. It's 50% lending should be to the individuals, and not less than 60% of net assets for the housing sector, including the project financing also. Major source of direct and indirect housing finance. See, earlier housing finance, this housing finance companies along with banks is the major source. And there was a time where the lending of housing finance companies increased more than the banks also. But then the banks have also started showing interest, and because of the priority sector lending recognition under priority sector housing as a priority sector, and considering it as an infrastructure of the nation, the banks lending was become directed also. So now again the banks have crossed the lending from then the housing finance companies. Now, housing finance companies are giving all kind of loans, guaranteeing funds, indirect finance, direct finance, builders, and their present outstanding is around 7.18 lakh crores. This is from the NHB sources. Right, sir, we'll also discuss this, but I will again write to you to go through it. You will see that housing finance companies share or housing finance is increasing day by day, where the 14.5 lakh crore, around 14.59 crores is by the housing, banks, and 7.18 lakh crores is by the housing finance companies as on date. So around this total accounts for around 22 lakh crores. Now, what is the effect of the housing policies and directed lending towards the housing is explained by me in a small graph. If you see, when we started making the housing finance or started making our housing policy, the housing finance was only 0.7% of the GDP, and in amount wise it was less than 1,000 crores. From 1,000 crore at that time in 1986-87, today the housing finance is 22 lakh crores, and it is around, which was 0.7% of GDP, is now about 12% of our GDP. The housing finance. So the growth you can see by these two particular agencies in the housing finance sector. The third is the cooperative banks. If you go to the western coastal areas like Bombay and then Bengaluru, Karnataka, Kerala, Bengaluru, and Gujarat side, then cooperatives are very active, especially in the Bombay and Gujarat region. So cooperative structure in India is quite old. It is even before the Britishers came to India. Britishers took the reins of the India, because at that time, in small group used to, as self-help groups, the cooperatives were working, where the funds were collected and it was given to the particular member at a particular rate of interest, and the others were given the interest benefits. So cooperatives came into existence. Then they are now established under two acts. There are number of acts which are governing the cooperative sector. So few companies which are cooperatives which are very old, they are registered under the 1912 Cooperative Act. Then state cooperative acts have been enacted by different states in different places. So few cooperatives are registered under the state cooperative acts whenever they are enacted after the independence. Then it was observed that certain cooperative societies were working beyond the boundaries of a particular state. So it was required that those cooperatives should also be regulated because the jurisdiction of the state government was not extending beyond the state territory. So Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act was also formed in 2002. So there are number of cooperative societies and cooperative banks which are under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act. Now these kind of lending is different from the banks, as I explained you. Number one, it lends to its members, and to getting a loan from a cooperative, you have to be a member of it. You can call it a matter of a thrift also, Then there are self-help groups also. Then cooperation among agriculturists, artisans is also there. And mostly they are the persons of limited means and operations in a particular limited area. Now, Cooperative Acts provides for memberships, voting rights, rural penetrations are also there. So all these kind of cooperatives are in existence in different parts of India. The cooperative structure is having a federal structure, like you have the primary cooperative societies in the village. Yes. Then there are block level cooperatives also, there are urban center cooperatives also, district cooperative societies also. Then there are state cooperative banks also. So all those are working independently also or under the aegis of the government. Few state governments have also promoted their own state cooperative banks. Now these banks normally in a federal manner give the loans to the lower end and provide the short-term credit for agriculture. This was the basic structure in the beginning. Like agriculture and allied activities was the main source, but slowly they have started providing long-term credit also. And for that, few cooperative societies or cooperative banks have come in the long-term financing area also. The land development banks are there, the state cooperative housing banks are there, the local development land development banks are there, then state level land development banks are there. So they are working in different states. So you should know that cooperative bank is working also. Now, if you see this cooperative working or this age-old social banking or social way of lending and borrowing, then it has its own inherent problems, which are also age-old, like there is a political interference, there is an inadequate supervision of the regulators, poor management is there, then recoveries are difficult, the recoveries are also stuck. So considering all these things, that the funds should flow to these cooperative banks, and their regulatory framework is being strengthened by RBI. So RBI in the process, if you see, then RBI has issued certain norms for urban cooperative banks also. Earlier they were very primary in nature, but slowly they are bringing them at par with the other banks, looking into their sizes. And regulatory framework for these companies are also being strengthened by RBI. RBI is also making norms so that their management is held accountable, because when management changes, when the politicians change, they resign their liabilities also, or their accountability. So their growth should be on sound lines or sound financial lines, as you see in MFIs, companies, local small banks or banks. So like that, the cooperatives are also being now regulated strenuously by the Reserve Bank of India. Slowly they are moving towards bringing them into the mainstream banking or mainstream non-banking financial system. Then comes the microfinance institution. So microfinance institution is our main aim. I will go a bit slightly in detail into it. MFIs are main drivers for the financial inclusion of underserved population. See, they are working on the fringes of informal and formal sector. So they are encroaching upon the informal sector, the MFIs, if we talk in the present terms. So, excuse me. So MFIs are helping mainly to the economically weaker section, lower income groups and unorganized sectors. Then they are driving business in the rural areas. They are the main drivers of the business development in the rural areas. They are creating lot of jobs for the beneficiaries and transforming the life of millions. So for that purpose, they are being strengthened, and the RBI is bringing them. And first, they want that those who are working on the fringes should come into the financial inclusion, and then they come under the MFI fold, the lenders, and slowly they are transforming, or they become a mainstream players. So slowly, see, aim is not to, go them towards the money lending or business or this thing, but slowly coming to the mainstream lending, which can build the nation infrastructure, which is providing jobs, which is helping the public at large. Now, if you see, as Garg Sahab has explained in his slide for earlier, that main housing shortages are basically in this sector only, that is called as EWS, LIG or unorganized sector. The 95% of the total demand of housing as of date is in this sector, and the government's mission of housing for all by 2022 can be met only and only by looking into the benefit of this sector. So that is why government has come up with the system of rental housing, or housing for small people, or LIG, HIG housing. They are giving the lot of subsidy and funds also for that. The demand of housing, I leave this, that how the demand of EWS and LIG sector is increasing, because this has already explained by Garg Sahab in his slide. The conditions, employment, rising income, remittances, social coherence, social structures are changing. From joint families, we are moving towards this unit family system. Housing credit is more available. So all these factors already discussed. I will not go into the details, but they are pushing the demand for this sector at a very rapid pace. Now, problems. See, the MFIs have distinctive problems. Number one, it is difficulty for them to mobilize the funds, because most of the lenders or banks, etc., are bit hesitant to lending to the lenders at the fringe, and wherever they find the opportunity of a lending in a proper lendable manner, they try to intervene themselves. So slowly, this is a basic problem which is being faced by the MFIs. Then there is a stringent regulatory framework for MFIs, because they are in the mainstream. So rate of interest, etc., have been regulated. Then the area where they work, or the fringes they work, there are problems of land titles. So recently the government has announced giving the land titles to the possession holders also. So lot of changes are taking place, but these are the basic problems which normally we hear from the MFI sector players, that we are having these problems. Difficulty in right building materials, skilled construction workers, awareness and access to housing technologies. See what happens, like you take the example of Orissa. In the coastal area, there are cyclones. There are certain areas which are earthquake prone. So the staff which are financing in these areas, or the borrower who is taking the money for house construction, they do not, well versed with the right kind of building material which are better for them and help them in having the particular houses. Same is the problem you face in the hilly areas also, or northeast also. Then a particular skilled construction workers are also of that particular type of construction are also not easily available in those areas. Awareness is not there. technology is not there. So my humble request is that when you finance in these areas or MFIs while financing to the lower strata, please take care of all these factors, because if house will survive, then your loan will survive. Then last and not the least is there is an over indebtedness in the rural areas. Multiple lendings are there. Then MF loans, microfinance loans are their cost of operation is more. So their lending or their cost of funds is more. So always there is a issue of having the better price for them. To solve these problems, the RBI, for all of you who are dealing in the MFI sector or on the fringes, I will suggest that RBI in June 2021 issued a consultative document on regulation of microfinance. So how to increase the microfinance and what regulation should be there for the microfinance? For that, RBI has come out with a consultative document in which they have given the draft regulatory framework also for the microfinance. So existing microfinance framework is being revised by the Reserve Bank of India, and it has demanded or asked the public to give their input also. So wherever you have the problem, you mention those specific problems looking into all these things which I have mentioned and you can give the proper feedback to the RBI in framing of these regulation of microfinance. Correct? Problem solution is, the qualifying assets for the lending to microfinance, like housing, is to be combined with the other kind of finances, and there should be a joint kind of lending.
Chadaji, can we wind up now?
Yes, I'll wind out. Then state housing boards. So I'll not go into the detail, but their working is going in the different side. They are in they have been asked to build up the land for housing sector. Slowly they are coming out of from the providing hire purchase housing finance. So with that I wind up. I'll give my presentation and you can have that. You will have the other players also in the market. Thank you very much, sir. Any other?
Thank you, Chadaji. Thank you. Yes, sir. And now we have a very important topic, credit, and very important person to attend that, Mr. Arendra Kumar. So I'll request Arendra Kumar sir to take control of the situation and please explain the credit assessment part to the microfinance players, keeping in focus their requirements, sir. And since you have been dealing with the subject and you are in the business of doing that, so you will be the right person. You are the right person, and hope they're all questions will be answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh Saab, for inviting me to be one of the speakers for this particular session on the appraisals of housing loan, more specifically for the microfinance segment. This segment has been very close to my heart because this segment has got a lot of potential. I was just overhearing what Mr. Chadda sir was talking about the potential. 95% of the demand currently is in weaker EWS and LIE segment. So, and the audience today are also from the places of microfinance, where they are trying to address a larger problems rather than the housing finance companies. So I'm very happy that microfinance companies are getting into the housing finance segment, because this segment definitely required a lot of financial interventions. and we thought that it will be very difficult for us, to address these issues. So let me briefly tell about my experience and background, why I get attracted for this particular subject, and also look forward for such sessions, because I have been extensively working on housing finance for all through my career. Though I started my career into the traditional housing finance system, and also moved into the mainstream housing finance, where we used to fund for last ticket loans and all. But nevertheless, the problem is not addressed, and still the larger population currently are not covered under the housing finance system. So it is very pertinent for all of us here who are there attending, that we should, look forward to cover the maximum population of India who are active in their incomes, and also need a housing for this as a shelter through a housing finance intervention. So I'll introduce this topic by giving some little background. Like I have seen in the agenda, most of the speakers have covered the demand side of issues, supply side of issues, and I was also hearing Mr. Chata rightly speaking about the gap. That gap is nothing but it's an opportunity for the housing finance institution or microfinance institution to go forward and help the families in building their homes. So I'll just start with the definition of a home. So, and everybody would agree that we all live in home. Being a human being, we don't live in forests, we don't live in caves. So we live in homes, and home is one place. After working here, maybe today I'm taking a session here, but at the end of the day, I definitely look forward to go back to my home. Right now, the difference between there's a house and home is there. House is what the structure, right? And it is the first step for building a home. Suppose you don't have a proper structure, then you will not build a home. Home is people who live in, and house is a structure. So the tagline I'm starting with my presentation is: home is a place where we are treated the best. So when we go back, we expect that we go back, people receive us with a lot of love and affection. This love, affection, comfort will come provided you have a proper infrastructure there, right? So I'll just move to the next level of my discussion, where we speak about that house being one of the essential thing for a human being. So all of us know that God has given three skins, right? Not we have three skins, right? One skin is the primary skin where God has given the natural skin. Second is what we wear as a clothes. That is our second skin, where we cover our body. That's clothes to larger extent help us to insulate us from the weathers, right? Maybe weathers also socially we are social animals, so it's required for us to cover our bodies. So it does gives a lot of first level comfort. Maybe when it rains, you wear a raincoat. When you feel warm, you wear little lighter clothes. So it gives some sort of comfort for us. The third is most important is a house. House is also a third scheme, because it also gives not only financial comfort, but also gives us stability in your life. It also covers you from weather, storms, and a lot of things. So we try to make a house a pakka house. We want to make a house which is long standing, will stay for some time. So that is what why finance is required. We want to build a house not for today, tomorrow, but especially Indians. We want to build our house which will stay for next generation at least. So this has become one of the essential part of our livelihood today. So we earn for not only roti, kapda, but also for makan. Right? You must have seen the proper saying that basic needs of human beings are roti, required for us, because we have to have fuel our body. Kapdas, we have to cover our body, and also makan. These are the essentials for any human being. So by definition of human being, we call as a social animal because of three things. And the biggest challenge in India is access to finance. Right? Everyone wanted to make a house, but still there is a gap. Mr. Chadha was telling that they have 90% still the problem unsolved. That means currently with all this, I started my career about 30 years back. 30 years also we were at GDP of 6%. Now we must just move to double digit 10%. 6, 7, 8, 30 years is a very slow movement, and we only address 5% of our problem. Still 94% has to be addressed. And maybe for last 5 to 10 years, I find that microfinance institution have become very active. They earlier used to fund for small ticket loans, maybe for livelihood. Second, for basic needs, like maybe after putting that money into their daily earning, the people used to upgrade their little lifestyle by wearing proper clothes or some sort of security. Now the microfinance institution are coming forward for lending for housing. But since they are into a different segment, they have a lot of challenges. So we'll try to take up one by one what are the challenges generally faced by the institution in funding, right? And we'll maybe we don't find all the solution, but maybe in my topic I'll try to address how you can have an approach towards housing finance. What are the things you have to look when you do a housing finance, right? So what is housing finance by definition? Financial assistance to own a residence. Simple thing. I want to build a house. I need money. So that is what. And why do you need money? Because we want to construct a house, we want to purchase a house, or we want to repair or extend a house. This is a very important point in especially the segment where microfinance companies or affordable housing finance companies are trying to play a major role. That is extend a dwelling unit or construct a dwelling unit or repair a dwelling unit. This is a very important subject because the today's mantra what government talks about is Swachh Bharat. That means we want to have a clean India. Clean India cannot be made unless you have a clean house. So the clean India concept should start from house. Yes, that means you have the basic sanitary facility, basic living standards. So your repairs are most important. Maybe I've seen lots of you when I move toward the semi-rural part of India or rural part of India, a lot of people still live in their old mud houses, poor sanitary conditions. They are not able to have basic money to repair their houses also. So these are the first important thing for them to provide a sanitation facility or a better living place for them to live in. Right? So I will more focus on incremental housing while I touch base the concepts of other housing product in housing finance. But the focus area for our discussion could be that how to approach and fund for the segment of customer who fall into the category of micro housing finance. Right. So let me first, give you the snapshot on various definitions or various, everybody has got his own way of understanding the market and defining. Ultimately, the whole mantra of our talk today or whole mantra of our being there into this existing is to provide financial assistance for people who really need finance to build their houses. So, housing microfinance. Let me start with a very small loans. Housing microfinance, that means micro loans, small loans, which are given for housing purpose. So, especially in case of the MFIs, most of the MFI give loans between 1 to 3 lakhs, and the primary use of such loans are for the sanitation purpose, to build toilets. Because now if you see a lot of advertisement, social media also, you see that government is also encouraging to have a proper toiletry facilities in the houses. So the microfinance companies, I was also working for one of the leading microfinance companies some time back. So the foremost thing what we started is funding for construction of toilets. Or in the program of housing finance, after the group loans, we started a individual loans for families where they wanted to construct a sanitary facility. So we started giving that. It was a big hit because 15 to 20,000 rupees or 1 lakh, less than 1 lakh of rupees of loan what you give for them is makes a lot of difference in their lives. Because the poor family today, they used to go about half a kilometer outside to have their toilet facility, or they don't have proper bathing facility, no water for them for cleanliness. So this 15 to 20,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees really help them to upgrade their life and have better living conditions. Now then, let us move into little next level segment called micro housing finance. What we earlier talked about housing microfinance, micro loans given for a housing purpose. That is primarily used for upgradation of house, most specifically for the sanitary purpose. Now, micro housing finance is we are giving smaller loans for construction of smaller houses, right? This particular loan sizes ranges between about 3 lakhs, or if you go to semi-urban area, goes up to 15 lakhs rupees, where the family income. So here the income consideration, what we talk about entirely, whether it is a small ticket loans or it is a medium ticket loans or very micro loans, it is a family income. The income concept has to be very clearly understood by all of us who are practitioners of housing finances. It is the family who is going to borrow. It is the family who is going to pay. more specifically in the segment which we are working. So mainstream housing finance, if you look at markets like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, main cities, it is husband, wife, maybe husband, guy is also not married, but he is individually capable of taking loan. So that is a different issue. But the segment which we are operating, collective borrowing from the household, collective payment happens here. So we have to understand the family as a totality when we consider for any lending purpose. Then we comes the so-called very popular definition is that is affordable housing finance. So we spoke about economically weaker section where MFIs are there trying to give us smaller loans, some about 3 to 15 lakhs rupees, ranging between 3 to 15 lakhs rupees for a low income in segment of the people. But in affordable housing finance, slightly the ticket sizes goes up, the loan amount also goes up, and the loan amount generally ranges between 15 to 50 lakhs. Why I mentioned here 15 to 50 lakhs, because in the definition by itself, affordable housing finance is not correctly defined, because RBI calls ours a priority sector lending. You must be hearing by the earlier speaker that the definition of what is PSL, priority sector lending by RBI. Some are the PMAY talks about LIG, MIG, and the subsidy, CLS subsidy for certain segment of customer. That is also called affordable housing finance. But primarily the loans ranges between 15 to 30 lakhs. Properties also are sub 50 lakhs rupees in those cases. And this such kind of customers don't they stay on the peripheries of larger cities or tier 3, tier 4 cities. So these are the primary three definition I want to make all of you very clear. The difference between very small ticket loan and little higher loan for construction of houses to affordable housing finance, that is LIG and MIG. Now, the most important thing everybody should understand here for housing, when we talk about housing finance in this segment, is customer engagement is a journey along. That means it is not a one-time treatment what we are going to give, one-time financial assistance we are going to give. We should understand the growing need of the customer and also focus on his incremental need. So suppose a customer today has got a husband, wife, and two small kids. So today his purpose was to have one room, kitchen, and good toiletry facility. That was his basic need today. But as and when the children just grow up, when they are in the middle school or high school, they need to have one more room. More specifically, when the this virus has affected everybody, there was a lockdowns and all, and all till now today, I think schools have not started. There is a virtual school going on. Children are not able to attend schools. So those kind of situation, we also need additional room for the children also, maybe for their studies, maybe for their own privacy. So there's again a room addition possible. So that's called incremental housing. So when we talk about engagement with the customer, so you as a practitioner of housing finance, you should be able to tell customer what is his present need and how he can go for a next level of his requirement. So this generally happens for in case of a self-construction loan, where customer already has got a piece of land and he wants to construct a house, but he has got a limitation to borrow because of his current income. So please act as a solution consultant. Tell the customer that this is your immediate requirement. You borrow now, complete this house, make the house livable, and when your income grows up, by which he also settles down on a repayment track, he can add one more house. That's called incremental housing concept. Please keep in mind that you all should, in the microfinance companies or affordable housing finance company, you should practice advocating the incremental housing concept. And not only in India, this concept has been very popular in all the developed countries or developing countries, and those countries have addressed this gap of housing and housing finance through incremental housing concept only. So this is very important concept, and all people who are attending, all the audience, request you to keep this important aspect in your mind when you are providing any consulting or solution or interaction with our customer segment. So for ease of our understanding, I have just put into a table whatever we spoke some time back about housing microfinance, micro housing finance, affordable housing finance, the ticket sizes that in the earlier slide I was talking about. Then who are the players for that? So when we talk about housing microfinance, small ticket loans, generally the primary lending institution or the first lending institution would be microfinance companies, right? So then those companies, what they do, because the microfinance company always have a short-term borrowings, so they may not have a product to give for long-term loans. So housing finance generally requires long-term term loans, maybe ranging between 10 to 20 years time. But because of the non-availability of funds and all, microfinance companies give restriction to maximum 3 to 5 years. So they are trying to address one part of the problem. That means maybe for immediate need to construct their the sanitary facility and all, but the need is not completely addressed. So such kind of house microfinance companies, though when they have started interacting with the customer, fulfill the immediate need, take the customer into next level by engaging them with the other housing finance companies or small finance banks. Most of the earlier big microfinance companies now graduated into small finance bank. There's a good opportunity, good move by the government for giving licenses for the small finance bank. It's really working wonders for the segment which we are not really targeting. Then microfinance company can originate. Then also they can collaborate with mainstream housing finance companies as a co-lending model. So earlier a speaker was also talking about the co-lending, the models. So there are different models available today, and together we means when we talk about the practitioners who are front-ending the customers, the government agencies, the government and RBI together are trying to address problem, because this problem not only uplifts the life of the customer as a customer and his family, but also contributes for the growth of a GDP in the country. So the well-being of the countries can also be measured by how well the citizens of India are living into. Are they living into pathetic conditions? Are they covered with the storms or the natural calamities? Also, all these things are the reflection of the happiness of the customers or the happiness of the population. So, if tomorrow, suppose really we want to measure the gross happiness index, which Bhutan today doesn't measure this growth by gross happiness, gross domestic product (GDP), but it measures with the gross happiness index, then India will not even able to compete with Bhutan, because our large population, they live in a very pathetic conditions. So this is one product or one area which will help customers to upgrade their lives and also give a social security, right? So why I'm giving this paradox for all of you, the audience here, when we get into the next aspect of underwriting the credit part, so these things should be kept in our mind when we are assessing the customer, not go with the the canned approach where everything is there as a templated and you go and approach, because this segment requires definitely a lot of skills. It's very easy to underwrite a mainstream customer, a customer who is a salaried customer, a customer who is filing ITRs. It's very easy to address to such kind of customers, but it's very difficult for assessing the capability or a credibility of the customers which we are talking now. It requires a lot of skills. It requires a lot of patience to underwrite those customers and find them that they are great worthy for a housing finance. So we covered various definitions. So very definitions are there in the public domain, that what is affordable housing finance, then their income criteria, everything. But I have made it very simple to understand that affordable housing is nothing but housing budget, which is generally 4 to 5 times of the family income. Suppose the entire family earns per month 25,000 rupees. That means in a year, the income is about 3 lakhs. That means they can afford to have a house around 4 times or 5 times, that is about 12 to 15 lakhs rupees. So that is affordability definition. So what is affordable to me may not be affordable to my neighbor. What is affordable to my neighbor may not be affordable to other person. So affordability is very relative. Generally, it varies and is linked to the income of a family or income of a person. So in our context, we'll always refer income of a family, because we are going to assess as a family income. Right? So what are the issues related to affordability? That is, this particular segment is largely informal in nature, because we are talking about largely people who are self-employed, they're petty businessmen, right? And they have income coming from different sources, small sources. They don't keep a record of those incomes. So these are the major things, the major challenge you are going to find when you do an assessment, a frontline assessment for this segment of customer. So when the topic was briefed to me, so it was told to me that all of you or most of you are frontline people who are into customer facing role and would be doing assessment of a customer. So it is more important for you to have this first-hand information that the moment you contact a customer, what are the few things you have to check them. So as I was telling, assessing a normal customer who is a salaried or a big businessman who's finding ideas and all is very easy, because everything is on paper and it's only a computation of a calculator. But in case of the segment we are talking about, it is very difficult. So I don't know the population who is all localized attending this particular webinar. So that I can in between speak about some concepts in Hindi also, because I'm not very good, but I'm also good at Hindi. So, since of how the people divided, are they from predominantly south or they are evenly distributed?
So, most means large part is from Orissa, sir.
Oh, okay.
Where Sa-Dhan is giving guidance to all of them.
I'm really happy to address the people who are attending from Orissa, because Orissa requires more intervention on especially incremental housing, small ticket housing, because that state currently is doing extremely well in case of in terms of infrastructure development or upbringing the life of the people. So I stick on to English only. And at the end of this session, you all can raise some questions by raising your hands, or you can refer the question to the coordinator, Mr. Singh, and in turn he can raise up the questions. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Second most important issue what we generally face in the affordable housing finance is informal titles and cumbersome land laws. So in case of normal housing finance, what will happen? You have 13 years, 40 years documents available to see and scrutinize. But in case of microfinance customers, those people have been staying for ages there, maybe 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, maybe second generation, but they don't keep the land records. And suppose I want to fund those people or fund those families, so I will not have a title deed with them readily available. It's not that they don't have title, but they don't have title documents. There's a difference between title deeds and title availability and title documents. I have a title, I've been staying here. I don't have piece of paper to prove that this is my land. So the biggest challenge what we face in this particular segment here is that the non-availability of documents here. That's called informal titles, right? It has flown from my father, grandfather to father, father to me, for my next generation. But because of lack of literacy or low knowledge there, so people don't keep records of the document. So that is one biggest challenge we'll face when we assess this. Then unfriendly town planning laws. So everybody will find in we go that do you have an approved map? Do you take a permission for construction of a house? So we all comply with that. But does the authorities who approve this construction of houses provide you basic infrastructure amenities? No. They only consume your fees and all for some other purpose without even providing this basic infrastructure. So the town planning laws also not very favorable, because they want to have the government infrastructure and all, it costs. So government intervention is very poor in developing infrastructure, in especially areas where we are targeting about, right? So that's why when we talk about any housing demand, we always refer to the demand of apartments. So, but actually the demand and supply of apartments is not a correct measure, because our customers don't prefer to stay in apartment in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. There is no apartment culture. Our customer stays into independent houses. They want to upgrade their houses. They want to add the rooms. So this is a journey for them. House building is a journey for them. Now, I today completes about 30 years into housing finance, but I look back, my parents, they also started in constructing affordable incremental housing. So when I was a kid, when I was too young, so my parents have just constructed a house, a slab on that, and there was no proper, electrification there. So we completed 3 rooms, started staying. Then as in time passes, as the income of the family grew, we completed the entire house. So imagine, we come from a educated family, but still 30 years back, these facilities were not available in the city, metro city. And tier 3, 4, tier 4 city for small earning person, this is next to impossible or not imaginable also, right? So basically, when we talk about the credit, so we use a lot of words: credit, eligibility, credit worthiness. This all thing is nothing but assessment of a person, how much he can borrow and how much he can pay every month, and how much he can borrow. That is the basic thing. So what we call it, household capacity to avail credit. We are again talking about a family together. We are not talking about any individual. Friends, please believe me, when you lend to housing finance, you feel so much happy. That person, when he constructs the house, he is so proud to have this. It becomes his emotional equity. Forget about the personal equity, it becomes so emotionally attached to this property that he nourishes it. So you have to properly assess his capacity so that he's not doing overborrowing, right? That is his creditworthiness. Then appropriate product and loan size is important. So second point, I would please refer to my second bigger bullet point. We talk about required loan size. So generally what we do, the customer requirement is 4 lakh, we give 1 lakh rupees. So his 4 lakhs and 1 lakh, there's a gap there. You can always give 1 lakh rupees. But at the same time, please counsel the customer how you can use this 1 lakh rupees and how balance he can meet. So you say that in 1 lakh rupees with his margin of 25,000, he can construct, the family can construct a small room or whatever extra basic amenity for living in. And next step, he can go for a little bigger house. So this is the role we have to play in the segment which you operate. We cannot make it a templated product saying that I'm giving you a loan of 1.5 lakh rupees, you do whatever you want. So what will happen? His need is not fulfilled, his requirement is not fulfilled, and you will be starting chasing him for repayment. So where the repayment problem comes means he doesn't complete the house, he stays in a rented house, rent he is paying, now he has to pay you EMI also. So proper counseling will definitely help us for utilization of the house and make him understand this amount will be able to make for the amount what you are lending, he's able to make a proper use of that. Okay? And third, fourth important aspect I'll talk about, or the problem what the segment is facing, is affordable EMI. So affordable EMI has got two components here. If you give loan for very short tenure, that means EMI is increased. Or when the EMI is increased, our segment of customer cannot pay it. Or if you increase the tenure, your MFIs or small housing finance companies cannot service because they don't have funds available for long term. This is the biggest challenge the microfinance companies or small housing finance companies face today. Another important aspect, what is that about affordable rate of interest? So while we talk about affordable houses, affordable housing finance, but the highest rate of interest we charge in this segment. So you as an MFI, I as a affordable housing finance company, our rates are ranging between 740 to 20%. So for 14 to 20% on a short-term loan tenure, it really becomes unaffordable for a customer to pay. How to address these issues? A lot of roles has been played by National Housing Bank by giving refinance facility to microfinance companies. Now earlier, microfinance companies were not part of the refinance thing, but over a period of time, NHB has opened its door to fund to do a refinance for the microfinance companies, small housing finance companies also. So largely, this is getting taken care of. The last point is about availability of a specialized capable manpower. So I was telling you when I started speaking was that assessing this customer segment is more difficult than assessing a customer of a mainstream housing finance. A person who's buying an apartment in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad is very easy because the title is given by the builder. He works for a reputed company. He files regular ITR. It's easy. But underwriting the segment which we are, it requires definitely a lot of skills training program and also a practice on that. So I have today, maybe in 45 minutes of my session, I will talk to you about various aspects you have to look in. But that will definitely not go into your DNA unless you practice it. So you people have to every time make a questionnaire, ask right questions, see how the income is there, how sustainable the income is there, whether because we are giving this housing loan upwards of 3 years, not put short loan, but 5 years, 10 years. Whether this income is going to stay for next 5 to 10 years, whether this person is going, his business is going to grow beyond his requirement, but his need and suppose his incremental need of income is say 10%. So his business also has to grow at a rate of 10 to 15%. So otherwise, he cannot beat the inflation and also pay EMI. So these are the important aspects we always have to keep in our mind when we talk about underwriting the affordable housing finance segment. So this was the preamble I was giving you the brief about the nuances or area aspect which has to be taken care when we do affordable housing finance underwriting. So the product part, if you look at, you must have heard housing finance is a very largely used word. It could be for purchase of a house, it could be for construction of a house, or it could be multiple thing, plot plus construction of a house. right? But our segment of customer takes loans largely for improvement of a house or an extension of a house, and this segment is largely untapped because mainstream housing finance companies, banks, or whatever you see in the media advertisement, they only focus on purchase or construction. Home improvement loan or incremental housing loan is not become a product of the day unless somebody comes about his requirement that he needs to some loan for his improvement of his house. It's not being offered as a standard product, or it is not being campaigned that you can take loan for improvement of your house. You find home loans, people feel that home loans are only given for construction or purchase of a house or purchase of a plot plus construction, but largely population doesn't know that home loans are also given for improvement and extension of the houses. That is called incremental housing. So you please, when you make any marketing campaign or communication campaign, please make it bold in your all communication part that housing loans are also given for construction for the renovation and extension of the houses. You will get very good business in this segment. And believe me, my friends, this is one of the safest product because the house is already existing there. Only thing is going to improve upon. So that means a lot of investment, the value of the property is there. Whatever you're giving is a small bit of it. So when you talk about loan to value ratio, your loan amount will be so small when compared to the value. So your risk element is largely gets addressed. Right? I just pictorially I have put a three eyes approach for our underwriting here. The three eye approach is one, your assessment of repayment capacity. Second is your technical assessment. Third is your legal assessment. So largely the housing finance or the mortgage finance is being assessed on a three eye approach. One, assessment of a family's income, that we talk about whether the income when you borrow can pay back the loan required, right? Over a period of time, the sustainability of the loan. Second part, the technical assessment. Technical assessments talk about the stability of the structure, the estimate given by the customer whether he's going to complete the house in that, the progress of the work, and also largely on the bylaws prevailing that area. When I talk about bylaws in prevailing in that area, that means maybe the house is into the conservation zone. So in this conservation zone, tomorrow if you want to use the legal measures for recovery, it will not be sustainable, right? Then there is the water bed is there, a low-lying water bed is there. You are going to construct a house there. That means tomorrow flood comes, you find in cities, major cities like in Bangalore or in other cities, developed cities, you find when rain comes, entire city is immersed into the house, into the water. Why? Because proper planning has not been taken. Most of the houses are constructed on the waterbed or very near to the full tank levels. So when heavy rain comes, entire area is submerged into water. So whatever customer has put there is gone. So you have to tell that whatever assessment you are doing is not for your safeguarding your loan, but is the interest of the customer. So always when you say that whatever you are doing is the interest of the customer and you go into the counseling mode, people will understand and appreciate that. So when I started my career about 25 years back, so when we used to meet the customer, I was having that lot of enthusiasm to interact with the customer. And when they used to find there were legal issues in the title and we used to find the way out or remedy for them, we used to tell the customer, whatever we are advising is for your next generation. Because the document or property what you are making is not only going to stay with you, but it will go to the next generation. So if you make your titles very clear, and when you're passing on, that means you're passing on a right property to your children or grandchildren. So these people used to appreciate that. They used to spend some money to make their property papers clean and clear and prepare them for next generation. So interaction is most important aspect in our the segment which you are offering, the micro housing finance or affordable housing finance. So when you talk about customers, different type of profiles you get. You get salaried profiles, you get proprietorship firms, you have partnership firms, then you have professionals, then under non-professional self-employed manufacturing, small manufacturers are there. Traders are there. There are service providers like tax consultant, homeopathy doctors, pharmacy companies. So the topography of customer is spread across in various aspects. And here we have to keep in mind that when you talk of a house, the most important person who plays in the role in keeping up the house is the lady, house lady of the house. That is, women play a very important role in upkeeping the house to the extent required. The emotional bonding is much more than the men, because she spends more time. Maybe she's a working lady or maybe employed, but still, when you compare relatively, the time spent by a lady is more in a house than a man. So her bonding is more attached towards housing, and her ownership factor is also more, right? So housing has played a very important role. Women has played a very important role in housing, and that's why right from HDFC was being the first housing finance company to everybody, smallest housing finance company now in microfinance, we essentially take women as the co-borrower. Because when we have, and that is the concept of most of the microfinance companies also. So most of the microfinance companies, the GLG model, they make a group of 5 women, 6 women, 7 women, because they know that women are responsible towards the credit, and spent amount borrowed from the lower companies are properly utilized and monitored by the ladies at home. Right? I'll just brief you on the outliers of what are the essentials for credit analysis, because we have limitation of time. Credit assessment itself is this topic itself is a 1 to 2 days exercise, where when we take full sessions, we spend one full day on income assessment part. We have some case studies we give to the audience and people who attend the training programs. Then second day we have technical legal part. But given the paucity of time, limitation of time, I'll just touch base with some of the important aspects which I've been telling all across when started my this training session. One is the most important is capacity. Capacity is nothing but whether the borrower has got income in excess of his expenses. Suppose I earn per day 100 rupees. That means in the end of the month, I earn 3,000 rupees. My wife also earns say 2,000 rupees. That means 5,000 rupees is my total income for the month. Now my expense itself are about 4 to 5,000. That means I don't have any excess money to repay my obligations. That means I'm not trade worthy, right? That my capacity is not doesn't permit to borrow loan. Same person, that is my income is say 15,000 per month. My spouse earns 10,000 per month. Together we are at 25,000, and my household expenses are not exceeding 15,000. That means I have 10,000 rupees available for me to take a loan and pay it. So in that we can also add back the current rent what is being paid. That means when I construct my own house, I'm not going to pay the rent. So add back that, so that becomes my capacity, right? So now I have capacity for this month. Can I have a sustainable capacity? My capacity, my cash flows will be there for next 7 to 10 years. 7 to 10 years very difficult for us to predict for this segment, because these are very fragile, but at the same time they are very agile also. I'll take a classical example. I was in Delhi when the pandemic one has come. So that Janpat area and all and CP area, small street vendors were there. They had badly been beaten because of the COVID. They went back to the native places. They struggled like anything because the incomes were completely gone because of the lockdown. The moment the lockdown opened, the same segment bounced back. They started earning, right? So that that agility is there or not in the family, you have to be very careful about the type of business, whether he has got a shop or establishment is small term, or whether he's just a mobile vendor. So these are the things which will help you to assess the cash flow stability, right? Second is the capital. So when we talk about this, all are fundamentally strong words, but all are applicable for a very big organization and also small customers also. Maybe the magnitude may differ. When you talk about a capital of a big company, it may be thousands crores. But when you talk about capital of a small petty businessman, it may be 50,000 rupees. So how much he has invested in his business, whether he's bought his capital from his own savings, what is his net worth. Net worth is, again, in finance word, looks a big word. Net worth is nothing but money which, over a period of time has increased the value. Suppose I invested uh, say 5 lakhs rupees 5 years back in the business. Now, because of the turnover increase in business profitability, I started deploying back. That 5 lakhs rupees has now today become 10 lakhs rupees, right? And in 10 lakhs rupees, I have put again my this the 3 lakhs in the business, 2 lakhs I purchased a plot of land. That means I have prudently invested that money in building up my assets. So my net worth is increasing. So these are the few things you have to do when you do a discussion with the customer. That suppose you say that every month you want to pay 10,000 rupees. That means at least 5,000 rupees in past 5 years you must be earning every month. How did you save that money? What did you do with that money? Whether you have created some assets, if you have created those assets, have you deployed the same asset for business, or have you invested for some other purpose? So these are the few questions we have to ask, because most of the housing finance companies today are going on an asset creation model. The asset creation model means you should ask that suppose you want to pay EMI of 10,000 per month, at least 5,000 rupees last 3 years, where did you save? Half the EMI. What did you do? Have you created asset? Did you buy a vehicle for delivery of your goods? Or have you upgraded your lifestyle? What are the things you have done that? So these also are the surrogate indicators for you to do credit assessment. So the conditions. So conditions, when we talk about the conditions here, so the person, if you look at stability of business, the business was there 1 year back in say one location. Now that the business moved to some other location, and why the business has moved means that that product was not being sold properly, so he moved. So every year, suppose a person is moving business from one place to another and changing his products, that means there is some issue in stability. He did not understood his business properly, right? So it is amount to stability. So similarly, if person is employed in some organization, a small organization, but every year he is changing the job, either there should be issue with the person because he's not able to stick on, or there should be some other reason which we are not knowing. That may could be integrity issues where the employer is kicking him off every 1 year. So these are the things you have to get into when you do a credit assessment. And this all has to be done in a manner where it is done in such a way that it doesn't hit the customer's morale. Right? So you should ask certain questions. You should derive some inferences from the data what we gather. So have a questionnaire ready. Whatever I spoke about in the last slide, whatever I'm speaking in coming slide, make a questionnaire of all those and ask some questions to the family uh, in a different modes or different timings. Suppose you are interviewing a husband, have an independent as an interview with the husband, and after some time you separately talk to the wife. See what is the connect there, right? Those important things that such example, your saving pattern, your asset creation pattern. Husband and wife both will be knowing same thing. You will say that भैया I used to save every month 5,000 rupees, 60,000 रुपए मैंने जमा करके एक जमीन खरीदी है और मैंने एक ऑटो रिक्शा खरीदा है सप्लाई करने के लिए. Wife is also involved in the business or maybe very active in the house, she'll also know what the husband has done with 5,000 rupees. So try to correlate the answers very importantly here. Right? Your assessment is more an interview-based assessment and drawing inferences rather than taking the available books given by the customer. So I'll tell you one example. When I was a practitioner working for a microfinance company, when we started the housing finance product, the first day I told my staff, anybody having ITRs, please don't give loans to those customers. Because that's not my customer. My customers are people who are earning 15 to 20,000, 25,000 per month. Why would that guy with a small business will go and file a ITR? That means somebody must have told him to file a income which is not there with him. So all of the people who are there in the banks and housing finance company will get biased. अरे उसका तो ITR है, ITR पे income loan दे रहे. Whether the customer requires ITR, first of all, it doesn't require ITR. Why did he file ITR? Somebody has misguided him, or that person is misguiding you as a lender. So you have to be very careful when it's assessment. Now, second thing is character. So character is one thing. You'll say that how can I know his character? A character surrogate or reflection is his credit score or credit history. So now you have 5 bureaus very active. You have Highmark, you have Equifax. Now CIBIL was earlier only for mainstream customers, big customer. Now CIBIL is also capturing data for all small customers of microfinance. So this customer history behavior, especially you people who have been engaging in customer microfinance product, will know customer behavior better than any other housing finance company or individual lenders, standalone lenders for housing finance. Because you must have engaged with the customer, those 6 to 8 ladies and their families for a little long time. You must be knowing the character, the obligation they are going to meet, the timeliness they are going to meet. So that is one way good for you because you know, understand the customer base. So you are taking a very calculated bet on your customer. So these parts are your basic credit analysis. The last one is the collateral. So collateral is what is the property he is going to give you. This property is landlocked. The property is clear. Suppose tomorrow you want to repost and sell the property. Can you sell that property? The largest problem in this segment for you is you assess the income. Everything you are convinced. But when it comes to collateral, you will get stuck because you will not be finding the inference of a title. You will not find that whether this segment of customer or this particular customer has got a title document. So the biggest challenge today, the segment of microfinance or affordable housing finance is facing on the availability of proper documentation on related title. So this is a very important aspect. Slowly things are moving for better because customers are also now understanding that they have to make proper documents. So I don't know in Oriya or other, but generally the common word used for document is dastavez or documents of the property. So people now understand I should make a proper dastavez, keep everything in writing and get it all registered in proper government records. Especially I'm taking this session from Hyderabad, which is part of Telangana. The government of Telangana has done very well here. They try to automate a lot of documents. They have all the properties are properly tagged. Now, if you want to go and find the history of any property, you need not go to sub-registrar office. You can do a search online in your database of government sites. You will find the entire history of the property, whether it is a private property, it is a government property, it is a private property, how many transactions have happened there. So even to the extent that they have separated urban and rural properties, agriculture, non-agriculture properties. So finding title for even agriculture properties is also very easy. They have also started giving a very beautiful passbook. So I have seen one of the passbook of agriculture land is far better than your passport. Passport, at least you affix your photograph, but these passbooks have got taken the photographs from your Aadhaar card and also properly barcoded and everything. So that will stand as one of the document which is authenticated by the government. So not only I'm giving an example of a Telangana government, but a lot of governments are working on clearing the titles records. This is very good move. I think what we have faced 30 years back, the coming generation will not have that difficulty in tracing the titles. There's a very good by a lot of state governments there. So I will talk about a little basic on assessment methods. Quickly, I will not get into details because each topic, as I told you, income assessment itself is a one-day topic followed by technical, legal. They are experts in technical assessment. They are experts in legal assessment. It's a subject by its own. But for this webinar and the audience, my objective is to make you people aware what are the different methods. You people go back home. I think very good handouts is being given by Sa-Dhan and Pioneer Institute of Housing Finance on the various aspects of lending, the backdrop of housing finance, what is the gap, opportunity. I myself gone through that entire material and was so convinced seeing that material so well articulated. You people are very lucky that now everything is getting available in the print media. Right? So briefly, I'll quickly go through. I have another half. Can I take half an hour, Anil sir? So I'll try to cover 10 minutes each in each area of assessment, and then I'll keep it open for questions. So one is your direct method, very simple method. So there is no rocket science. You go to any person, he has got 3 years of ITRs based on the net profit declared to calculate his income and also his eligibility. Be aware, 3 years ITRs means you will find that lot of people file ITRs for loan purpose. So I will not say that is a correct tool for assessment of income. I am not a strong advocate for judging the income based on ITRs. Most of the ITRs in India are either overinflated or underinflated. It's not a correct measure. So the popular method in our segment is pure assessment. I was talking to you that about 6 C's of credit. Please make a note of that. That's there in your handout also. Each pointer will be as notes for you to understand, make a questionnaire by yourself. So I would suggest you, instead of taking questionnaires from available in the public domain, please spend some time to in your own capacity, try to understand each C, make your own questions, start asking your segment about those questions and try to correlate whether you're going right or wrong. That is the best way of underwriting. Hopefully you have a supervisory structure in your organization, so you definitely your supervisors are little more knowledgeable, practice more in this segment, cross check with them how these things are there, so you get a lot of information insights, right? So the most popular method is the second method we are talking about here, is a pure assessment model, right? So this method has to be practiced largely in the segment of which microfinance companies are there. So you have to spend time with the customer, see what is his sales per day, sales per week, sales per month, see the footfall. आप अगर ओडिशा में तो you find lot of food joint, rasgulla merchant. If you go to Cuttack, you find chudi makers. If you go to Bengal part, you have this shank chudi makers. I have seen near to Calcutta, there is a village who is completely value chain making this shank chudi. I thought when shank chudi में इसमें है क्या skill उतना, but entire village was into making of this Bengali white color chudis. So you have to spend time, understand the business model, see how many customers say, what is the stock, how much he sells, how whether he sales on credit, yeah, नहीं तो he sells on cash. So all these things you have to understand. I told you what the simple yardstick is. ITRs, the most important is you should have at least a gap of 6 months between the two ITRs. Otherwise, filing ITRs in single day will not serve a purpose. You should not file ITRs only for loan sake. You should have record keeping of ITRs for his own purpose plus his business. So these are the important aspects. Another important things that happened here, we all curse GST and all, because GST in the last 1-2 years created a lot of trouble for a petty businessman. But wherever you find some difficulty, right, the problem is there's always something good comes out of it. So GST largely has streamlined the sales part, and now small businessmen also having GST numbers. So that is one area where you can find what is the GST sales. You'll get two reflection of sales, annual sales or monthly sales or 6 monthly sales. And you know that particular kirana merchant is there or some small trader is there, his GST sales are say for the goods what he sells through bill is 50% of it. So you can find out what is the total sale, what is the margin he gets on that particular product, and you can compute the profitability. So a lot of good things are happening at the same time. When good thing happens, there are a lot of difficult things also there. You have to face a lot of difficulties, right? So maybe 5 years from now, 3 years from now, things will be more stable. But again, when we get into stability, that is not enough for us. We have to go to segment which is not stable. Our job as a financing company is to make people take more money, because not for our own business. We are making them informal to formal. We are assessing the informal income, making them pay EMI through bank and making them more formal. So people don't understand housing loans or any other loan. What is the contribution to the economy? These companies are contributing immensely, converting the informal economy into formal economy. Right? So I'll share these handouts. It is a laundry list of things. What are the things you have to take in case of assessed income, non-assessed income? So assessed income program is, again, there's some jargon used here, is PD. PD means personal discussion by a credit manager. Personal discussion, nothing but you have to sit with the customer. Don't go in a hurry. Go as if you're going for a holiday there, half day holiday or a quarter day holiday. 2 घंटे की छुट्टी पे जा रहे हो आप. कहाँ जा रहे हो? You're going to meet the customer. What you're going to do customer? You are going to understand the customer, right? I've seen a lot of people in my teams also. Just they go spend some 10 minutes and come back. What did you understand with the customer? जो कस्टमर है मैं बोला आपने रिकॉर्ड करके ला लिया. Have you seen? Have you evidenced it? No. So when you go there, spend 1 to 2 hours with the customer. See what is his peak time. Maybe required go one more time. That's why the rate of interest are very high in our segment is the cost of operations are very high. One customer doesn't stay very near to you. आपके नजदीक नहीं रहता है, आपसे 30-40 किलोमीटर दूर रहता है. Now you cannot say to that 30 किलोमीटर दूर कस्टमर को मैं नहीं करूंगा because आपका मार्केट ही वहां पे है. So when you go there, so you go find that you go at a wrong time. Example, when you go at 4 o'clock for a hotel restaurant, right? स्मॉल टाउन में 4 बजे के टाइम पे होटल रेस्टोरेंट में कोई कस्टमर्स रहते नहीं. जनरली स्मॉल टाउन में इधर ब्रेकफास्ट टाइम, लंच टाइम और डिनर टाइम ओनली कस्टमर रहते. यू गो एट अ रॉन्ग टाइम. Customer says that no, I have very good sales, so many customers. You cannot believe that. So we have to go at a right time. We'll find some, there is a footfall there. So lot of cities you find, if Pune, if you are from Madhya Pradesh, Indore, these are the famous cities where lot of our informal customers are surviving because of running small tiffin centers or for small sweet shops. So they have their own sales. If you go to Gujarat is a capital of self-employed people. Every small street you find micro entrepreneurs, and they're all credit worthy. So they have set timings. So they do multiple businesses. एक टाइम पे शाम में बेचेगा पानी पूरी, दोपहर में कुछ और करेगा, सुबह कुछ और करेगा. Right? So these are the timing cycles you have to understand. You have to not be in hurry. You have to spend time with them. So patience is the foremost important thing in our customers. So these are some models we have evolved here. One is a gross margin program, one is profit margin. I will just brief things about you about the first two programs. Generally, gross margin is nothing but supposing a customer has got a sales, right? Sales every year, every month, the sales are. I think there is issue in my internet. Every year the sale every month I'll let go with the sale is about say 2 lakhs per month. That means every day he's got a sale of 10,000. On an even average he's got a sales of 2 lakhs. Now on the sales, that is sales में उसको margin कितना मिलता है? Most important is, so on my entire sale I make 15%. So that means I'm earning 30,000 per month. So that is on a gross income or my turnover. You are assessing a model. So how do you do that? So most of our customers in this segment, they maintain a day book. आप जितना भी सेल होता है ना, 15 रुपए, 20 रुपए, 50 रुपए, 100 rupees, 200 rupees, every sale he records, and end of the day he totals and he pays there. So you have to go and take his day book, see his month totals, right? Then add to the year there or 6 months and find out whether there is any seasonality in monthly sales or weekly sales, and you have to compute that. So that is basically on a gross margin. Profit multiplier is generally used when there's an ITR. In India, what happens? People doesn't show the profit to show the income tax. So there is something called kacha pakka. You must, if you are dealing with little high profile other than microfinance, you find medium businessman दो टाइप के बुक्स मेंटेन करते हैं. मेंटेन टू टाइप्स ऑफ बुक्स. एक कच्चा बुक बोलते हैं, पक्का बुक बोलते हैं. कच्चा बुक में दे ऑल डोंट शो इन एनी ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड्स. कच्चा सेल्स आया तो चिट्ठी फाड़ के निकाल दी. Then pakka means they cut a receipt, they record in the day book, they file ITR. So generally your ITRs are objective of a true customer is to save income tax. So he will not show much money in the profit statement or in the IT statement. So you have to assess what is his true income, what is given in ITR, and you can give a multiplier. Okay, bhai, his income on paper is said every month 15,000 rupees is showing declared, but actually it is 45,000. But you are not very sure whether 45 or 55. Then what you do, you generally give a multiplier to that. So multiplier by 2 times multiplier. So you give a multiplier to that and say that I want, because my estimate may be wrong. Maybe 40,000 दिख रहा है मुझे, but वो customer 15,000 ही बोल रहा है. 15 से 45 के बीच में 30,000 उसकी इनकम होगी. There may be income ranging between 50 to 40,000. So you give it 2 times multiply and say, okay, this is the income, true income. I based on it, I do a calculation. These all estimates. So your prudency of estimation should be very good. That means ultimately going back to your rule number 1, spend more time with the customer. Don't be in hurry. Fundamental rule of credit underwriting in this segment जितना टाइम आप कस्टमर से स्पेंड करोगे उतना अच्छा समझोगे. So this gross margin, I have given some example here. I'll move forward because I have the two topics I have to cover, legal and technical aspect. This all I will circulate to you from Mr. Singh Saab, and you can also use this as one of the benchmark when you want to do some programs of underwriting.
On Sir Legal, we have a session tomorrow also.
Okay.
So tomorrow, Mr. Garg will be handling that. So some part
Okay.
from your slide can be shared with us, and Mr. Garg will be taking care of that, sir.
Sure, sure. No, I just
Technical part with this microfinance companies, since they are dealing with a special segment. Can you tell something to assuage their feelings, because they also feel what to do in this situation, sir?
So I'll straight away go back to one of the slides where we generally use income estimation method. I'll come back to technical appraisal, but I have one slide on the income estimation method which we follow. I don't know whether I carry that. Yeah. See, we use this method on Excel sheet in microfinance companies. I borrowed, then I modified it. This popularly used for income assessment. What we do generally is take an example of a trader. A typical trader, which we take easy example of a Kirana trader. So we assess his, we just ask some questionnaires. As I told you, asking questions is best way of assessing customer. That means when you spend time, you cannot sit idle there. So you say that, sir, I want to understand your business. At the same time, you don't go as if you are interrogating. When I find some of the people, they go so prepared as a policeman एंड कस्टमर पे अटैक कर देते हैं. सब आपका आज का दिन का गुड डे सेल कितना है, आपका बैड डे सेल कितना है, आपका ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे तो ही विल फील लिटिल इंटिमिडेटेड, घबरा जाता है. तो आप लोग यू शुड आस्क इन सच वे. सी questioning assessment is also should become an part of an art with you. So when you deal with the customer, you should be very pleasant experience. You should feel that you are really come to help him to understand his business. So the more you understand, the more help you can provide. So that is a communication you have to give to your customer. Especially microfinance is a very vibrant thing today and the future of the country. So I have seen microfinance companies have converted a lot of people life to a better life. And they started giving small ticket loans, make them, repayment capacity, regular habit of repayment. They have converted customer from a non-bankable to bankable customer. Now they are going for next journey, making customers to have their own houses. Such a beautiful work microfinance companies are doing in India. So it's needless to tell you, you people are very good in asking that. But as a, one of the trainers, I'm trying to tell you. So some of the questionnaires you have to prepare and ask them, what is the good day sales? Means every time what happens, there are in a week. If you look at the shops which are in the industrial area के shop में you have Saturdays very good day. A lot of workers, they come back, they buy groceries, they for the entire 1 week. So the good day sales is on Saturdays. Right? Saturday and Sunday also we have very good day sales. But Mondays, okay, but Tuesday onwards the sales period goes down. Sales period goes down to certain level in Wednesday that almost very few things are being sold there. So you have to assess what is good day sales, what is bad day sales, what is average day sales. And that is one question. Then next is again cyclicity of the week also will be there. Month ke beginning mein, in the beginning of the month, the sale week is very good for that segment because everybody gets salaried customers. So everybody will get salaries. So people want to stock their groceries at home. So first week sales are very good, right? Regular week, second week हो जाता है आपका. Bad week, third week में खत्म पैसा. Third, fourth week में salaried customer is pockets of out. But that is indicator that what type of customer segment is staying in and around that particular shop. That means there are largely salaried, small salaried customers because third week their pockets are now empty. Again the same question you get, my sales are evenly spread across during the week. Means in that segment there are a lot of daily wage workers are there. That means आज सुबह कमाता है, next day खरीदता है वो, every day, every alternate days, the buy is there. I mean, the area of that particular shop is being lot of self-employed, you say, or daily wage workers are there. That's why they are not sure about their cash flows. So they buy on a weekly basis or on an alternate basis. Whereas a salaried customer, the moment he gets a salary, first week he buys or second week he buys. So that also gives an insight. His shop is in the dense salaried place. आजू बाजू एरिया में salaried customer ज्यादा रहते हैं, और worker category, labor category ज्यादा रहते हैं, because daily wage workers. This is the insight you have to draw. That is one way of questioners, right? Then I told you, in a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is a good day, bad day, regular day. So certain questions. This is one example I'm giving. You can develop your own questionnaire. So when Mr. Singh sir was asking me how to address the income assessment part, so I'm trying to provide you the basic inputs which has been proven, practiced. It's not completely developed by me or my team. It is being evolved. Maybe when we started doing this first job, we were not having such a complex sheet. We made it very simple. But then over a period of time, we developed such kind of sheets for a trader, for a manufacturer, for a service company, different, it's called PD sheets, personal discussion sheets. So instead of asking a random questions, so we made a structured questionnaires. So this structured question need not to form a questions, right? It could be form a data capturing. So we said capture the data. Now next is product sales. If you look at somewhere in the 17th row of the Excel sheet, all type of chocolates, how many chocolates you sell, right? Quantity, frequency, then selling price. So why we ask chocolates, soaps and all is these purchases are done on bill by the customers, that kirana store. If you ask rice, dal, they don't buy it on bill, so you don't have a record of that. So how do you assess the entire turnover for him? Is that how many, he says कि I sell so much of goods per day. Say हर रोज में 1,000 rupees, 2,000 रुपए का sale करता हूँ. Out of 2,000 rupees sale, 1,000 rupees is from the FMCG goods, right? So FMCG goods में 1,000 means he must have bought this good through proper bills. So you can ask them कि भाई थोड़े बिल तो बताओ कितना खरीदते हो आप महीना. So that is one question. You can have a fallback question, backward question. इतना सेल करते हो हर महीना, तो 1,000 chocolates बेचते हो, तो 1,000 chocolates से ज्यादा ही खरीदोगे ना? Can you show some bills? So 1 or 2 bills are enough for you to validate that. So for every question you ask, there should be a validation point for you. And for all validation, remember this statement: for all validation points, you may not have the documents to prove. So you should develop a mechanism कि you have a dipstick. 5 questions I'm going to ask. In these 5 questions, I have some proofs available for satisfying myself. Right? Like I told you, soaps and detergent. Hindustan Unilever is going to supply them soaps. Right? For Hindustan Unilever, he buys on bills only. Right? So this is one type of questionnaire we made, and we also, if you see on the right foremost, right, we construct a P&L account for the customer. So if you look at these particular slides, so we make a P&L account that we say what is the cash salaries, then what are the things he's going to spend for his business. And at the end of the day, net business income we calculate. So this is a tool or a sheet of calculation we made for our customer. So our customers will not have P&L accounts made by our chartered accountant. So you should be capable of making an income statement month-wise or at least quarter-wise for the customer. So that is the ability and capability you people have to develop when you want to do income assessment. Okay. So this is one thing I wanted to show. I'll share this PPT with Mr. Singh Saab. You can he'll circulate to you. Then I'll go back to the technical aspect, because legal part I think tomorrow we'll have will be taken by Mr. Gar. So I'll spend little time on the technical part, because I don't think so that somebody is taking technical session. Yeah. So let me complete this last part. So additional income. So most important aspect in our particular segment is husband, wife both are earning. family is earning, and generally what happens, there is an additional source of income. For an example, I've given one of the incomes here. Generally, our entire roots, all of our roots are from some agriculture background or from a rural background. So most of us, our parents or maybe in-laws will have agriculture land at the native places. There is additional income coming there. So that gives you a comfort. Don't take that there is additional income, add back, because you don't have proof, you are not visited at agriculture income. But he says that we also have agriculture income. From that village, we get some groceries for our livelihood. That means indirectly that support is there. So you can just ask them whether he has some proof for that. Maybe kacha pakka proof of land. That's enough, because you are not going to consider that income, but that gives you comfort for underwriting. Then most of the people in our segment always make one unit for living, one unit for letting it out. I give an example. I still remember that. I was going to one of these cities in Rajasthan, in Pali. In Pali, there very small workers, mill workers, income was 15,000 rupees or 18,000 rupees. So we have given a loan of 4 lakhs rupees. I was reluctant to give a loan of 4 lakhs because his EMI itself was coming half EMI, 7,000-8,000 rupees. I said, balance 7,000, how can a person survive? So while approving the case, I said, I want to see the customer and his family before you disburse. I personally visited the family. I was so much impressed. That poor guy, he made 2 plus 2 rooms, one room kitchen toilet and one room kitchen toilet, small compact house. One he want to stay and one he want to let out. So most of the people, they live in lot of adversity or in low budget till they completely pay off your loan. They are very sensitive for the debt. तो जो लोन लेते हैं उसके ऊपर इतना सेंसिटिव होते हैं कि जब तक वो लोन क्लियर नहीं होता, they don't feel that the house is theirs. So they are so sensitive. So they are making the house with additional rental income. They already have a ground floor. That's why I was talking about the concept of incremental housing. So they already have a house, additional income from rent. So these are the lot of comforts we get from this segment. So this segment is don't live in luxuries. For them, 2 room is a luxury, 1 room is a requirement. And they get into a second room to keep their debt like that only. People living in cities or mainstream, they have the fancy of living in luxuries, but our segment of customer, for them, house is a shelter first. Then additional room is a comfort. 3 rooms is a luxury. So they will not get into additional room or 3 room unless they clear off the loan or they have source of, they are very prudent borrowers. So we generally feel very insecure to lend to these customers, but I feel more comfort to lend to this customer rather than lending to regular customers, because there is a lot of this customer. There is a lot of need in this customer. Legal appraisal part. As I said in the beginning of that, what does technical appraisal means? Technical appraisal is the ability of the property, assessing the end use of the property, end use of the loan. So you must be knowing that people who already have this housing loan product, something called LUC, loan utilization certifications or loan utilization report, we take it. So how does loan utilization certificate will come? When you lend the money, whether the guy has spent from last time to this time, whether there is increment in the construction or not, that is what we look at. How does it happen? Either you can have your own technical person properly trained in your system who goes, inspects and sees there is a progress, or you can hire an external engineer who is called a valuer. He visits there, he gives the identification of the property, boundaries of the property he'll show you, and also assess the value of the property, land value plus building value. They also give a certification saying that what is stability of the property. आपने घर दिया, फाइनेंस कर दिया, बट कच्चा मकान है, नेक्स्ट बारिश में मकान गिर गया, the house completely collapsed. What happened to your funding? Funding is gone. Only land is there. You're on this loan for construction of a house. A person without his knowledge, he has used all mud, low cost material, and he was duped, and ultimately building falls. So your duty is also to guide the customer on technical front by directly or through your engineer, that properly use proper building materials, see that your building stays for next 15 years of time, or at least 10 to 15 years of time till the loan is repaid. Also make them aware not only loan, this house should stay beyond the loan period because you are making for your lifetime. This segment of customers will not make many houses in their life. One house or maybe adding 2 more rooms or one house plus another house. That's it. So you should make them very clear. If whatever you are making, it's an investment for your lifetime. It is investment for your next generation. These are the important things you have to make them aware. And जब तक आप समझाओगे, you make them understand, these people will be so much appreciating you. Believe me, my friends, financing home or financing for the livelihood is not the employment you are getting. You are also getting blessings of those people. So this is what you are doing to your thing, not only as an employment, but you are also doing a social service. So your job is multifold. You are, definitely we are all are working for money. You are lending money. You have to collect. At the same time, you are supporting their livelihood. You are supporting their family. You are creating asset for them. Right? So as I told you, the few aspects here is that to assess value of the land, construction, confirm the existing condition of the property, distress. So tomorrow you want to sell the property, right? So who will certify that when you sell the property, you'll get the money? It is a valuation report or technical guide. Yes, there are challenges and practical challenges. You want to sell the property in segment. It is very difficult. But that difficulty part, you will only know it. सामने वाले कस्टमर को पता नहीं है, उसको तो ये पता होगा घर में का हफ्ता नहीं भरेंगे तो घर जाएगा. He will not know that मेरा घर कौन खरीदेगा, उसको बोलेगा कि मेरा घर तो जाएगा. एंड स्पेशली वी आर टेकिंग वाइफ एज अ को-बोरोवर. मैडम घर में बोलेगी कि तुम घर नहीं का हफ्ता नहीं भरोगे तो बैंक आके लॉक लगा लेगा, बच्चे तो रोड पे आ जाएंगे. So this is, there's a lot of bonding there. It's not that you're going to snatch away the property. You have to do only 10% of recovery. 90% of the recovery is done by the madam, the lady of the house. Right? So when I was working for State Bank of India way back, we used to go on Sunday for collections. So the borrowers, the male people used to call and tell us, सर आप लोग संडे के रोज मत आइए कलेक्शन करने के लिए, घर में फैमिली होती है तो लोग घर में मैडम को प्रेशर डालती है. तो एंड वी यूज्ड टू ओनली टेल द लेडी, मैडम आप घर का हफ्ता नहीं भरोगे तो आपका घर चले जाएगा, बच्चों को रुपये आ जाएंगे. दैट स्टेटमेंट इज इनफ फॉर योर रिकवरी. So but at the same time you should know what property you are funding, that exactly you should be able to locate the property. ऐसा होगा कई बार I have seen that you have funded the property is not existing and nobody is able to identify the property. Now the technology is advanced, you have geo-tagging happening, so आपका longitude latitude tag होता है, so you can put your Google map, go to the property directly. In olden days tracing property was a big task. It's just like tracing out Sita in Lanka. So you will only have to send Hanuman there, or you have to send some magician to locate one. But now things have changed. So you people are largely blessed that you can identify a property, you get land records. You are definitely very many tools to assess credibility. आपका civil score है, Equifax, Hyperion, Highmark score है, सब कुछ मिल रहा है आपको करने. So our time, you only have to do so much discussion. You used to do only bank statement, maybe a body language of the customer used to assess. Still, we never used to go wrong because the segment which we were catering was housing finance. Housing finance customer में duping बहुत कम होता है. There are very less customers जो they try to take you for it. They are intentional. Crimes are there everywhere, but largely this product, housing finance, we have very less risk. So assess, why do you do evaluation here? To assess future life of the building. As I told you, we are going to give loan for minimum 10 years, 15 years. Your building is collapsing in 5 years. So then when you go for recovery, customer will, ठीक है आपने घर को लोन दिया था, घर तो नहीं है, आप लेके जाओ घर. What will do? You can't do anything, right? So I will not use these slides jargons for you because these are more largely used for the purchase of the house, like FSI, floor space index, market value. Market value is important for you. I'll give you a little briefing about market value. Market value is the value where currently the transactions are going on, or it is completely depend on the demand and supply. The area is growing fast. Currently, you have a very good market value. But what will happen when you want to really possess the property and want to sell it? Then you will get only distress value. So market में मालूम होता है कि इसने regular EMI has not been paying and you want to sell the property. Bank want to sell the property, then you will not get it. So you will get only lesser value. That's why what we do, you don't do 100% financing. You do only 80% in case of purchase. In case of self construction, we give only 90% of the construction estimate. कल के दिन loan default हुआ, so when you will not realize full value, so we keep some cushion. That's what we call it loan to value ratio. Loan जितना दे रहे हैं उसका value का 80% ही देते हो. So this is called loan to value ratio. This largely helps when the customer is into distress. And another important point is here, the plan and estimate. Plan is nothing but a map. How is going to construct? कितने square feet का घर बना रहा है वो? That is called a plan, right? Estimate is घर बनाने के लिए, to make a house construction, what is the cost? This generally given by the engineer. Engineers, we ask the customer, you make a plan, that is make a map how you're going to construct, and also give me an estimate. Customer will come back, I am going to make 200 square feet, 300 square feet of a house. It will cost me 4 lakhs rupees or 5 lakhs rupees. Now that is your start point of a technical assessment. You know that 5 lakhs is his requirement. Now customer eligible is only 3 lakhs rupees. What will happen? 2 lakhs rupees he has to fund from his own sources. So your next question will be, after doing income assessment, you know he is eligible for only 3 lakhs loan, but estimate is 5 lakhs rupees. The second question you're going to ask is, where are you going to get these 2 lakhs? Do you have savings? And the universal answer so far I got it is savings तो बहुत ही कम होते हैं. They say my father-in-law is going to give me the biggest thing, because we are living in India. So India में today also there is a lot of support comes from your in-laws house. So biggest answer, my wife's parents are going to support me. So you take it for granted whether it will come or not, but you should guide your customer that आपका 4 लाख, आपका 3 lakhs your loan, whatever he's putting from 1 lakh he's saving, his house should get completed in 4 lakh. When I say completed, it will not get completed, it should become livable. रहने लायक मकान होना चाहिए. 5 लाख का एस्टिमेशन में क्या लिखे करेगा वो? बाहर की प्लास्टरिंग, आउटर प्लास्टरिंग, इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन, कंपाउंड वॉल, XYZ, all is put in. At least 4 lakh, you see that internal finishings are done. His house is kitchen, toilet. Most important, kitchen and toilets are completed. The definition of house starts with kitchen. If there is no kitchen, there is no house. It is only a room. The definition of house starts with a room that has got kitchen and toilet. Right? Please make up in your mind that when you talk of a house, earlier it was only kitchen and a room. Now you have to add a toilet to that. If toilet, kitchen and room is not there, that is not a house. It is nothing but a cage. एक पिंजरा है जो उस रूम में रहता है, उसमें जानवर रहते हैं. People who stay are not human beings, they're all animals, because it's a cage only. So house means you should have a room, a kitchen and toilet. Now I go to the next level. You should also have ventilation. Well, that's why generally town planning law says you have to leave a sidewise space so that there is proper ventilation. Because the land rate is very high, a lot of people don't live. At least there should be cross ventilation. सामने पीछे से उसमें there should be windows for people to live. The oxygen is the foremost requirement. It's more important than the food. You can live without food for at least some hours or some days, but without oxygen you cannot stay more than a minute. So air is important, right? Kitchen has to have ventilation. These are all the things in a part of your technical evaluation. You have to do it. Or if you are not engineer also, I request all of you, at least once you visit customer's house where he is constructing as a crate officer, crate manager, whatever role you are into. Visit the house where he is going to stay, where he is going to construct, give some piece of advice, because you must be seeing hundreds of houses, you as a financier. For him, it is only one house. तो एक ही घर बना रहा है, आप 100 घर फाइनेंस कर रहे हो, तो एटलीस्ट यू गो देयर, गिव सम पीस ऑफ एडवाइस. भैया आप ऐसा बनवा लो, ऐसा कर लो, आपको 4 लाख बस नहीं होगा, आप इतना पहले बनाओ, स्टार्ट लिविंग इन, आपका रेंट बच जाएगा, यू स्टॉप पेइंग द रेंट. नाउ नेक्स्ट टाइम आप फिर एक 6 months 1 year के बाद फिर टॉप अप लोन ले लो हमसे, बाकी का मकान कंप्लीट कर लेना. डोंट पुश देम इनटू द डेट ट्रैप. Lot of people generally क्या करते हैं, they feel, I've seen most of the credit managers, okay, they say, okay, I feel I should give only 2 lakhs, give 2 lakhs, requirement is 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs रुपए कहाँ से लाएगा, कहीं से नहीं लाएगा वो क्या करेगा, आपके 2 लाख भी ले लेगा, और 1 लाख खुद के डालेगा, घर इनकम्प्लीट, रेंट पे करेगा, घर कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ, आपका ईएमआई डिफॉल्ट हो जाएगा. So you are ensuring that the house you are making is not complete but livable. There is a difference between completion and livability. Completion means definition कुछ भी होगा, उसके लिए complete compound wall, gate, lot of things. Livability is roof is completed, sanitation is there, kitchen is there, decent flooring is there, he can live in his family. Make the house livable. In our segment microfinance, livability is completion. So take in your mind. Your estimate, your funding should support your livable house. Right? So these are the basic things. There are different types of structures. One is load bearing structure, यानी इसमें पिलर नहीं होते हैं. आपको सबको लगा होगा कि आरसीसी स्ट्रक्चर में पिलर होते हैं बीच में, उसके बाद रूफ डालते हैं और रूफ के बाद फिर दीवार बनाते हैं. लोड बेयरिंग स्ट्रक्चर में क्या होता है, पिलर नहीं होते हैं, दीवार बनती है, उस पर छत आ जाती है. डिफरेंस उतना ही है उसमें, और कुछ नहीं है. जनरली छोटे मकान के लिए आप पिलर्स की जरूरत नहीं है. यू डोंट नीड ए पिलर कंस्ट्रक्शन. ब्रिक कंस्ट्रक्शन इज गुड इनफ अनलेस द सॉइल इज वेरी बैड. So these two types of definition: load bearing structure and RCC structure. Again, this is part of complete civil engineering. People study for 4 years also, 3 years also. But for you as a financial, you should know a load bearing structure house is constructing RCC. Definition of Pakka house. Now, I have a lot of debate, discussion. Generally, we feel that if the slab is RCC, it's called Pakka house. Otherwise, any other roof is called Kacha house. I differ in the thought process, because everybody cannot afford to have a RCC slab. The most important thing, your wall should be good enough to stand. Walls and the foundation should be good enough to stand for next 30 years. Your roof always can be changed. You start with a ACC asbestos roof or a corrugated sheet roof. Next, you should be able to put a RCC slab. Most important, the structure should be there for next 30 years. That is called Pakka house. So not RCC. Lot of housing finance companies, they don't fund which is the non-RCC slab there. That means we are losing opportunity to help people in our segment. We are not making people to make a livelihood change or upgrade their life. The upgradation of life should be, you have proper ventilation, kitchen, toilet facility, and your walls and foundation should be able to support for next 30 years of time. Right? 30 years में next generation आ जाएगा आपके, then the family will grow up, they also will start earning, their lifestyle will change. Right? So what, my parents used to earn, they constructed, I don't stay in that house, I have built my house for myself. Similarly, their children also will upgrade the house. But you should give provision for upgradation of house. उनको मौका होना चाहिए कि they can put another slab, they can add one more room, all those things should be. Right? This is the basic types of that. Then side these all things I have told you in a nutshell. So I have made one this one cut what stage the percentage of work, because when you go there for giving the tranche-wise disbursement, generally in self-construction cases, you don't give single payment, you give 3-4 installment. So there's a percentage breakup here for this one. So your engineer who is certifying or your internal engineer will be knowing about this. Anyway, for academic interest, I'll share with all of you this one. So here I end this my thing, because the topic again I can take it for hours together, but it should also, it is a virtual session, so the less of interaction, so it is less interesting for the audience. So I'll stop here and give it to Mr. Singh Sir. If people can ask any questions if you want to through the coordinator, or then we can wind it up.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So it's a pleasure listening to you. It's always a treat for all of us. And new information comes every say.
No, I always enjoy to interact people who are serving this microfinance for specially housing,
Yes,
because
sir.
this is the need of the nation, need of the hour, no, this need of the nation.
Very correct.
Here, microfinance companies have been working on livelihood programs to enhance the capability of people to borrow and increase the lifestyle. Housing will help them to upgrade their lives.
And that's why, sir, Sa-Dhan is also doing a great job, that at least capacity building, they are attempting to provide them the knowledge and every aspect of
Sa-Dhan
the
is
finance.
doing a wonderful job. Last
Wonderful
session
job.
we had very good participants also.
Yes.
And I think this moment is required. I really acknowledge the effort made by Sa-Dhan in this
Yes.
particular initiative. I thank them. This is my second session I'm having this time. I look forward many more. I think we can, with the COVID slows down, we can have a long sessions also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You have spared your time. I know how busy you are. You are sitting in office still, and from your busy schedule, you have given us time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It was captivating for all of us. Thank you.
Certainly, sir, and thank you so much for the wonderful session. The experience so far, very, very enriching. And we can, take any question from participants, Anil sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If participants want to ask, they can ask just now, or if they have any question, they can put in chat. I'll note down. I'll answer tomorrow if they are tired now. I do not know. I
Yes.
know Mr. Arendra Kumar is not tired.
No.
That's true,
He
sir.
has a passion to teach. Actually, he has a passion. That's why he is with us. We know because of his passion he is with us. He's not here for earning anything out of this. He is for this passion. He want to address the segment, and of course, will this presentation be shared? Yes, of course, this will be shared.
So I will be sharing after tomorrow's session
Yes, yes.
to all the participants, those
Most
who are
of the
attending
information,
this
most
wonderful
of the
training
information
program.
will be shared. Will be shared.
Most of the
So I guess-
information I think is there in your handout.
Handouts.
The
Yes.
handout has come up very well. So anyway, I'll share these slides also.
Will
So that
yeah.
people want to use their as a part of their practice for their own training session internally. It is good. There's nothing proprietary here. There's nothing to be stopped here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess there are no questions. So we can have tomorrow's session at
Yes.
3 p.m. So thank to all the participant and faculty member, especially to the R.S. Garg sir and always Anil sir and all the faculty members,
you.
including Arun sir, and especially covering the housing overall scenario and picture, and the incremental housing product and the asset creation model, saving pattern, and the C of credit assessment. These are the aspects that are very enriching, for all the participants.
And tomorrow it will be very good for all the participants, as Mr. Garg will be taking session on legal aspects.
Correct?
And most of the practical aspects may be discussed there. Actually.
Yeah. So we can wind up now. We'll
Yes.
have a tomorrow discussion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again
Mehta.
to the participants and faculty members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. God
Thank
bless
you,
you.
sir. Thank you so much for the
Everyone.
time.
Thank you, sir.